harmonious. Beneath the surface, they were in a subtle contest of wills. Sima Yi approached Zhuge Hong and whispered, "Brother Zhuge, in that case, let us proceed according to our original plan." Zhuge Hong nodded, about to extract a card, when he heard Su Yinzhou add, "But I can give it a try." Tang Xiaoxiao interjected, "If you have missiles like those used against the suspension bridge, perhaps you could indeed give it a go." Zhang Qilong also nodded in agreement. Indeed, just the sound of that missile indicates its formidable power. A sudden sense of foreboding surged within Zhuge Hong, prompting him to hastily inquire, "Su, how many such missiles do you still possess?" Su Yinzhou nodded calmly. "There are 3 remaining." Upon hearing this, the others collectively exhaled, relieved. If Su Yinzhou were to produce a dozen missiles of such potency, the task of dealing with Zhang Jiao might fall outside their purview. Even if Zhang Jiao's sorcery were exceptionally powerful, withstanding 5 or 6 missiles would be the utmost limit. A dozen would be utterly insurmountable. Meanwhile, some harbored doubts. Su Yinzhou has already expended 3 missiles at the suspension bridge. Is it wise to use the last 3 now? Such immensely potent consumables seem a waste for merely seizing merit points. Little did they know that Su Yunzhou's cruise missiles were regenerative. In the next moment, he brandished a super cruise missile launcher, aiming skyward and unleashing 3 missiles with a resounding boom. The sudden cacophony startled those on the ground. Zhuge Hong exclaimed, "What are you doing? Do you wish to blow us all to smithereens?" Su Yunzhou remained silent, merely gesturing towards the sky. As the others looked up, they beheld the first missile soaring upwards, seemingly animated, suddenly veering at a height of several dozen meters toward the platform occupied by Zhang Jiao. As anticipated, a fireball erupted from the platform, striking the missile with precision. Boom! The missile detonated mid-air, illuminating half the sky with its fiery glow. 1 missile down, 2 followed closely behind. Witnessing the missile's might, Zhang Jiao dared not be complacent. He immediately released 2 fireballs in an attempt to intercept the remaining missiles. However, Su Yinzhou had anticipated this, deftly maneuvering the last 2 missiles to evade the fireballs. Thus, the scene transformed into a dramatic chase. 2 fireballs pursued 2 missiles, swirling and dancing in the air like an elegant calligraphy. Su Yinzhou, multitasking to control the missile trajectories, began to sweat from his brow. The closer they approached Zhang Jiao, the faster the fireballs sped, leaving the missiles little chance of nearing their target without being intercepted. In this moment, the others had gathered behind Su Yinzhou, akin to elementary school students peering curiously at an older sibling's phone. They gazed in envy at the screen, displaying the real-time footage relayed by the cruise missiles. "Brother Su, this setup is quite sophisticated. This weapon appears to be at least of perfect caliber, truly impressive. It must utilize special missile ammunition, which surely is quite precious. You're certainly going all out to secure those merit points." At this moment, they also witnessed Su Yunzhou's missiles descending downwind. 2 fireballs emerged, offering the missiles no chance to approach Zhang Jiao. Once the missiles drew near, the velocity of the fireballs would significantly increase. Yi Liuli sighed in resignation, remarking, "It seems even you are destined to fail. I had harbored some expectations for you. Yet, it appears you are merely this." She adopted an air of arrogance, her demeanor haughty. At that moment, Qin Ruoxue was closest to Su Yinzhou, her ample bosom nearly pressing against his back. Of course, her proximity was not due to any infatuation. Rather, as a seasoned player, she possessed an innate talent for advising others in gameplay. "Listen, you should let these 2 missiles fly close together, then have one missile accelerate swiftly while the other lags slightly behind. This way, one missile can simultaneously intercept both fireballs, allowing the remaining missile to target Zhang Jiao." Su Yinzhou listened to her, feeling overwhelmed. Controlling 2 missiles at once is already quite challenging, you know? You, without even a magic pill, dare to command my missiles? Qin Ruoxue found herself momentarily at a loss for words. Indeed, she lacked a magic pill. Subsequently, Su Yinzhou, in a fit of defiance, directed both missiles away from Zhang Jiao. The 2 fireballs, trailing closely behind, dissipated like mist once they were over 100 meters from Zhang Jiao. Clearly, this marked the maximum range of the fireball's attack. It made sense. If Zhang Jiao's fireballs had a longer range, he could easily act as a fireball sniper from his elevated position. Without hesitation, Su Yinzhou maneuvered the 2 missiles off course, directing them toward the eastern and western sides of Zhang Jiao's platform. Boom! Boom! Two deafening explosions resonated, accompanied by the sharp sound of a massive bronze artifact being struck. The cacophony of shattering pierced the air. Evidently, the missiles had struck the bronze cauldrons at the altars on either side of the platform. Zhuge Hong furrowed his brow, asking, "Brother Su, what did you just do?" Before he could inquire further, a series of system notifications clarified matters for the group. Su Yunzhou destroyed the eastern altar, earning 300 merit points. Su Yunzhou destroyed the eastern altar, earning 300 merit points. Amidst the tempest of destruction, Su Yunzhou contributed 100 points, earning 2,400 merit points. Goodness, another 3,000 merit points for you. Sima's expression shifted dramatically as he stared incredulously at Su Yunzhou. Zhuge Hong's expression was equally grim. He had initially believed Su Yunzhou would fail, yet he had not anticipated that his missiles could reach such distances. What kind of eastern wind is this? At this moment, many others were also seething with frustration as they gazed at Su Yunzhou. It was inevitable. The one who stood out would attract fire, and Su Yunzhou had undeniably snatched away the merits. However, he could not forfeit the imminent benefits out of fear of standing out. With a commendable achievement of 3,000 battle points, he was assured at least 2 blue treasure chests, coupled with the merit he had previously acquired from capturing the drawbridge stronghold. He had amassed over 1,500 battle points in this endeavor alone. In total, he was guaranteed at least 3 blue treasure chests. Regardless of the circumstances, it was a worthwhile venture. At this moment, Yoli's gaze towards Su Yunzhou had shifted, her previously haughty demeanor now subdued. Su, Brother Su Yunzhou, may I add you as a friend?" A dual pig-tailed, lovely girl addressed him. If this were in Blue Star, Su Yunzhou would have undoubtedly acquiesced immediately. Yet at present, Yuli was overlooked. The young man drew forth a sealing charm from his backpack, mounted his steed, and swiftly dashed ahead, charging up the steps directly. As the altars on both sides had been damaged, the fierce winds obstructing the central staircase had dissipated. With the barrier of tempestuous winds removed, it was only natural for him to ascend and confront Zhang Jiao. One could easily surmise that the battle points for vanquishing Zhang Jiao would be substantial. As Su Yunzhou surged several meters ahead, the others finally grasped the situation and hurriedly followed suit. Even if they could not claim the kill on Zhang Jiao, contributing to the damage dealt was still advantageous. After all, the reward for the task were allocated based on contribution. As long as they contributed to Zhang Jiao's demise, they could earn corresponding battle points. However, contrary to the game, an overwhelming horde of hundreds of yellow turbans charged down from the steps. At this moment, Su Yunzhou's group consisted of merely 8 individuals. "Run, don't engage." Zhuge Hong reacted swiftly, urgently warning the others and immediately pulling the nearest Sima away. They were the first to retreat, evading the onslaught of the yellow turbans. The others, each employing their unique abilities, sought every possible means to evade the impending danger. Tang Xiaoxiao leveraged her cloak's power to hover in the air. She initially intended to soar over the heads of the yellow turbans and confront Zhang Jiao directly. However, she quickly realized the folly of such a notion. Her flight had a time constraint, and Zhang Jiao possessed long-range attacks like fireballs. If she flew forward, what difference would it make to present herself as a living target before Zhang Jiao? Consequently, Tang Xiaoxiao decisively opted to retreat alongside Zhuge Hong and Sima. Zhang Qilong, armed with a bow, unleashed a barrage of arrows, swiftly dispatching the approaching enemies. Yet he was hesitant to advance, choosing to fight while retreating. Qin Ruoshui, akin to a leopard, deftly navigated through the fray, swiftly closing the distance to Su Yunzhou. She was not merely approaching without purpose. Atop Su Yunzhou's head, a bell had appeared. Soul Bell 1. Effect. Once activated, the bell hovers around the user, disrupting the minds of all enemies within a 100-meter radius, inducing a chance of hallucinations. Qin Ruoshui is not an enemy. Thus, she remains unaffected by the Soul Bell's influence. However, the yellow turban soldiers surrounding Su Yunzhou are all ensnared by its effects, their minds clouded and combat prowess significantly diminished. Consequently, Su Yunzhou charges ahead, while Qin Ruoshui provides cover from the rear with her ranged weaponry. Her ammunition is indeed of little value. Su Yunzhou is oblivious to the fact that this girl has somehow managed to procure a considerable amount of gunpowder. The crux of bullet production lies in gunpowder. With it, everything else falls into place. Originally wielding dual AKs, Qin Ruoshui now resorts to a single weapon. However, it is none other than an M249 light machine gun. This formidable firearm boasts a maximum magazine capacity of 200 rounds and is quite heavy. Yet in Qin Ruoshui's hands, it feels no more cumbersome than a mere pistol. Furthermore, while firing this light machine gun, she manages to move gracefully, closely tailing Su Yunzhou. From this alone, her physique and agility could rival his. In reality, this is merely a manifestation of her passive skill. Chapter 94. The Lich King. At this moment, Su Yunzhou has dismounted as his horse's leg has been injured. This predicament is unavoidable. He lacks equestrian skills. Though he has temporarily acquired basic riding abilities in this world, performing intricate maneuvers atop a horse is utterly beyond his capabilities. After falling from the steed, Su Yunzhou immediately rolls and lands smoothly. He has activated Swift as the wind, amplifying his agility tenfold, enabling him to execute numerous extreme movements. I shall claim Zhang Jiao's head. Su Yunzhou chuckled softly, casting a glance back at Qin Ruoshui, who was providing cover for him, and spoke. Thereafter, like a bolt of lightning, he broke through the ranks of the yellow-turbaned soldiers and surged towards the high platform. Have you been concealing your strength all along? Qin Ruoshui clicked her tongue, feeling somewhat displeased. Being a mere pawn in someone else's game of deception is far from pleasant. Yet, she has misjudged Su Yunzhou. He never intended to hide his prowess. From a very start, he had fully seized the suspension bridge and subsequently single-handedly dismantled the sacrificial altar. One could say he concentrated all the merit points, originally meant for the other train leaders, solely upon himself. For a moment, the others had yet to react. Su Yunzhou's figure had already ascended to the high platform where Zhang Jiao stood. This marks the first time Su Yunzhou confronts Zhang Jiao face to face. In this world, Zhang Jiao resembles a priest from some ancient tribe, wielding a staff and adorned in peculiar attire, exuding an air of mysticism. However, he appears somewhat different from the image seen from the Missal of Xuanfei. Su Yunzhou furrowed his brows, directing his gaze towards Zhang Jiao's brow. What was this intense aura of malevolence surrounding him? Had Zhang Jiao already succumbed to death? With his spiritual energy now exceeding 20 points, Su Yunzhou could perceive things invisible to ordinary eyes. He could not observe through the camera, yet standing merely a few meters away from Zhang Jiao, he discerned clearly that the aura emanating from Zhang Jiao was anything but that of a living being. Suddenly, an ominous premonition stirred within Su Yunzhou's heart. He turned to survey the entire yellow turban camp, laid out before him in its entirety. With the aid of his eagle-eyed vision, his sight extended far beyond that of the average person, and standing at the highest point of the camp, he beheld a scene that resembled a living hell. The remnants of corpses, blood, and flesh that had not vanished transformed into grotesque, terrifying entities. Those corpses that remained intact appeared somewhat normal, resembling zombies with greenish skin. In contrast, the dismembered, unrecognizable chunks of flesh were bizarrely fused together by strange energy, forming grotesque dolls crafted from cadaverous parts. Anyone witnessing such a horrific sight would likely retch incessantly, overwhelmed by dread. Even Su Yunzhou, confronted with this tableau, felt his brow tighten in concern. This was not the authentic Dynasty Warriors 5. What was this madness? Was he to confront the undead slayer, Xiahou Dun? He silently scoffed while his gaze remained unwaveringly fixed on Zhang Jiao. Surrounding Zhang Jiao were imposing yellow turban warriors, forming a protective circle around him. Zhang Jiao, meeting Su Yunzhou's stare, slowly began to speak. General, why must he go to such lengths? After all, this world is of no concern to you, is it? A smirk danced on Su Yunzhou's lips. Oh, you are aware of our conductor's identity? At least in the presence of Huangfu Song. The other party was utterly oblivious to Su Yunzhou's origins, let alone any notion of a conductor. Zhang Jiao, he was clearly not from this world. Was he? Ha ha. Ha. Zhang Jiao's laughter resonated eerily, akin to nails scraping against a chalkboard. With a sinister grin, he continued, I am the Lich King under the command of the King of the Underworld. This realm now belongs to my spectral forces, and you intruders should swiftly retreat and not trespass upon my domain. Zhang Jiao, now referred to as the Lich King, was gradually enveloped by an aura of malevolence. His appearance, once dominated by yellow, had transformed to a stark black. Su Yunzhou raised an eyebrow. It seems you speak little truth. If this territory truly belongs to your spectral forces, I am left with a question: why not simply transform us all into blood corpses, as you have done with that crowd below? If this has long been your domain, why were all initially normal until their demise led them to become blood corpses? Su Yunzhou chuckled. Clearly, your grasp on this world is woefully inadequate. Do you realize that transforming corpses into animated, aggressive creatures is achievable? Even a realm devoid of superpowers, relying solely on technology? You claim dominion over this world, yet can only attain such a trivial outcome? Surely, you jest. Is your notion of control merely an imposition of force? With a sardonic smile, Su Yunzhou remarked, "Let us not be absurd. Such feats hardly constitute mastery. Here, I could effortlessly extinguish your life." With that, he shed all pretense. The seal of magic was lifted, and his blade was drawn. In an instant, he appeared behind the Lich King, who, still seething from Su Yunzhou's words, was preparing to raise his staff and summon his undead army. A chilling sound echoed as the blade pierced through bone, eliciting an eerie, cough-like wail from the Lich King. Almost immediately, a terrifying surge of exorcising power erupted within him. Su Yunzhou pondered why he consistently encountered adversaries he could counter so effectively. These specters were all susceptible to his prowess. He could even slay ghosts of higher rank. The magical seal significantly amplified his damage against these entities. Clearly, his repeated encounters with such advantageous scenarios were intricately tied to his dominion status. As a rare attribute, while dominion status did not offer immediate enhancements, it greatly facilitated Su Yunzhou's development. It is worth noting that many conductors might not encounter a resource-gathering platform even once in 3 stations. In the second tier, quality platforms were the norm, with perfect platforms boasting only a 1 chance of appearing. However, barring unforeseen circumstances, Su Yunzhou was destined to experience perfect-level platforms at every subsequent station in the second tier. This exemplifies the formidable nature of dominion status, akin to an intangible snowball effect. "Charge forth, my minions!" The Lich King bellowed as a radiant crimson light engulfed him, an ominous aura enveloping the entire platform. The yellow turban warriors, grotesque amalgamations of corpses, grew stronger within this malevolent mist, lunging towards Su Yunzhou. Chapter 95. Left Zishan, dozens of yellow turban warriors, or what could be termed as flesh and blood monstrosities, surged towards Su Yunzhou. He swiftly drew his blade and retreated several paces. Then, facing the oncoming horde, he executed a sweeping strike. This blow was imbued with unparalleled might. The 7 styles of dreaming. First style, the stunning swan breaks the formation. This strike was a fusion of cleaving, slashing, and sweeping. The blade flashed like a startled swan, the sweeping arc devastating the enemy ranks. Countless icy beams enveloped the yellow turban warriors, contracting like a spider's web, ultimately rending their flesh apart. Within mere seconds, these imposing and powerful beings were cleaved into disjointed fragments. The Lich King, witnessing this spectacle, remained unfazed. A cold smile crept across his face. "Do you truly believe that your feeble assaults could inflict any harm upon my minions? Preposterous!" With that, he raised his staff, his voice resonating like the wails of the damned, as he began to chant an obscure incantation. To the astonishment of all, the dismembered chunks of flesh began to coalesce once more, merging into formidable yellow-clad warriors. The Lich King turned his gaze upon Su Yunzhou, his murderous intent palpable. "You stand no chance of defeating me. Shall I dispose of you first, then?" However, Su Yunzhou's next utterance sent chills down his spine. "Impossible. Even with your speed, you cannot navigate through such a horde of yellow-clad warriors." Without further ado, Su Yunzhou unleashed the technique known as Swift Blade Shatters Formation. Blades of light filled the air, reducing all the yellow-clad warriors to mere fragments of flesh. Rebirth! Rebirth! The Lich King attempted to gather the remnants once more. Yet he could not match Su Yunzhou's swiftness. It was crucial to note that Su Yunzhou's agility had far surpassed the second-tier level. A fleeting shadow passed, and the sealing magic once again pierced the Lich King's form. This time, Su Yunzhou struck down from the center of his foe's forehead, cleaving him in 2. In that moment, the true visage of the Lich King revealed itself. A mere skeleton clad in human skin, each bone appeared to possess a semblance of life. Slowly shifting upon the ground. "You cannot kill me," the Lich King's eerie and jarring voice echoed from the pile of bones. Su Yunzhou understood that without employing some genuine means, it would be impossible to eradicate such a high-tier undead creature entirely. Sealing magic. He contemplated briefly, then infused all 70 of his spiritual energy into the sealing magic, significantly amplifying its suppressive effect. Subsequently, Su Yunzhou aimed at the heap of bones, severing each long, robust bone into halves. A harrowing wail erupted from the Lich King, accompanied by the chilling cries of "Ah!" as the severed bones ignited with golden-black flames. They were relentlessly scorched. You truly dare to kill me. The king of the underworld will not let you escape. They will avenge me. You are declaring war upon the entire underworld. Su Yunzhou narrowed his eyes. The underworld? I have already offended the mother of reproduction. How could I fear such an obscure faction? You have slain the Lich King, correcting the course of the world. You have saved the world from impending occupation by the underworld, gaining favor with Zwai. You have gained 5,000 merit points. Current merit points, 9527. Su Yunzhou chuckled softly. Such a being claims kingship? Or is it that in this realm, his powers are suppressed? In truth, Su Yunzhou had long recognized that those higher beings seeking to intervene in these worlds seemed to bear a cost. The nurturing goddess, in her desire to protect Yifeng, could only watch as he endured the torment inflicted by Su Yunzhou, ultimately leading to the birth of twins. Moreover, without the tacit approval of the onlookers, she would not have been able to intervene and save Yifeng. In this realm reminiscent of the true Dynasty Warriors 5, the recently emerged Lich King seemed to be suppressed. Although the adversary appeared to possess elevated power, their innate abilities were rather feeble, resulting in their swift demise at the hands of Su Yunzhou. Subsequently, Su Yunzhou's gaze shifted downward, where the blood-corrupted monstrosities continued their relentless assault on others, despite their transformation into mere blood corpses. Yet, no new blood corpses would arise. If this continued, the blood corpses would soon be eradicated entirely, thus fulfilling their mission. With this thought in mind, Su Yunzhou sought a place to sit and initiated the assessment of his battle achievements. He possessed nearly 10,000 battle points. What should he exchange them for? At that moment, a flash of purple light descended before him. He sensed something amiss, yet the newcomer bore no ill intentions. The visitor, possessing a graceful figure and an alluring presence, adorned in a sheer veil and a flowing purple gown, with a sword at her waist, approached Su Yunzhou and bowed respectfully before introducing herself. I am Zwai, the daughter of Zwai. I extend my gratitude for your assistance in vanquishing the Lich King and safeguarding this realm from the encroachment of the underworld. Su Yunzhou raised an eyebrow in intrigue. Zwai? This realm? A hypothesis began to form in his mind, which Zwai's subsequent words confirmed. To be candid, General Su, this world was crafted by my father through various means, including spiritual power, formations, and sacred artifacts. Though it is set against the backdrop of the Three Kingdoms era, it incorporates game-like elements, all orchestrated by my father. Su Yunzhou interjected. Enough, is it not merely a direct replication of the true Dynasty Warriors 5 setting? Suddenly, a thought struck him, leaving his mind in disarray. Zwai, feeling a touch embarrassed, chuckled softly. My father indeed has a penchant for gaming. Yet this battlefield is merely a minuscule segment of the entire Three Kingdoms game world. Oh, Su Yunzhou initially believed this to be a diminutive imitation of Dynasty Warriors 5. However, it now appeared that this was merely one of the gameplay facets. He wondered how much content Zwai had amalgamated into this so-called Three Kingdoms game world. Was there an exploding armor version of the Three Kingdoms? Clearing his throat, Su Yunzhou resumed. So, did you come merely to express your gratitude? Zwai hastily replied. I nearly forgot. My father entrusted me with 2 matters to convey to you as a token of thanks. Firstly, a unique item has appeared in your battle achievement store, which is the Book of Escape that my father originally studied. Su Yunzhou promptly inspected his battle achievement store. Indeed, a new item had surfaced at the top. Book of Escape, battle points, 9527. Is this precisely my total battle points? Zwai, this fellow, Zwai hastily explained. Originally, the price was set at 10,000 merit points, but considering the situation of General Su, a special discount was offered. The maiden in the purple dress playfully winked at Su Yunzhou. All right, I understand, Su Yunzhou replied, observing the legendary quality of the Danjia Tian Shu. He chose to remain silent. for to speak further would be to appear ungrateful after receiving a favor. Chapter 96. Mental Assault. Su Yinzhou squinted slightly, sensing something peculiar in Zhuo Zishan's words. It seemed as though she was unaware of the pricing set for the Dun Jiatian Shu. Nevertheless, this was of no concern to him. Without hesitation, Su Yinzhou exchanged for the Dun Jiatian Shu, which caused his merit points to plummet to 0. The points that could have redeemed 6 blue treasure chests were now transformed into a skill book resting in his hands. Dun Jiatian Shu type, skill book, skill level, S-class skill description. With deeper study of the Dun Jiatian Shu, one will obtain various permanent special enhancements. This skill cannot be directly mastered through the system. It must be actively learned. Note, an exceptionally unique and powerful skill, requiring your initiative. Of course, if one does not wish to learn, they are under no obligation. Although the skill book did not explicitly state its effects, the S-class rating assured Su Yunzhou that this was indeed a worthy investment, or rather, a gesture of goodwill from Zhuo. Therefore, he nodded resolutely. Please convey my regards to the great Zhuo. Now, what is the other matter? Zhuo Zishan paused before continuing. The other matter pertains to the original Zhang Jiao of this world. The Lich King must impersonate Zhang Jiao to evade my father's surveillance, which necessitates ensuring that Zhang Jiao is still alive. Otherwise, the ruse would be swiftly uncovered. Thus, Zhang Jiao should be trapped somewhere. If we can reach him in time, perhaps we can rescue him. At this juncture, Zhuo Zishan hesitated, but your original mission as train conductors was to eliminate Zhang Jiao. Su Yinzhou interjected. These matters do not concern me. What relevance do they hold for me? If I were to eliminate the true Zhang Jiao, would I gain merit points? Zhuo Zishan shook her head. What conflict of interest exists between the true Zhang Jiao and myself? Zhuo Zishan found herself momentarily speechless. But aren't all you travelers from another world aiming to defeat Zhang Jiao? No, I do not agree. Su Yinzhou declared with righteous indignation. Zhang Jiao is the genuine benefactor of the farmers. I stand in support of Zhang Jiao. Zhuo Zishan hastily responded. Then, General Su, please set forth immediately to rescue Zhang Jiao. And what rewards await? Su Yinzhou unexpectedly inquired. However, did you not just express your support for Zhang Jiao? I stand in both spiritual and verbal solidarity with Zhang Jiao, but to expect me to act in support without any tangible benefits seems rather unreasonable, does it not? Am I to work without recompense? Upon hearing this, Zhuo Zishan was momentarily taken aback, her demeanor becoming disheveled in the wind. This situation deviates from that of an ordinary player, does it not? Those individuals, driven by the rallying cry of restoring the Han dynasty, charged forth without hesitation, engaging in battle without a second thought. Zhuo Zishan forced an awkward smile and inquired, So, General Su, what reward do you seek? What can you offer me? After a lengthy silence, Zhuo Zishan noticed others approaching the high platform. She promptly asked, Do you desire a wife? Su Yinzhou. At that moment, Qin Ruoshui had already broken free from the encirclement of corpses, sprinting towards the high platform. Her speed was impressive, quickly closing the distance to Su Yinzhou. From his vantage point, with a bird's-eye view enhanced by his keen perception, he could clearly see Qin Ruoshui's figure. Yet she remained oblivious to his and Zhuo Zishan's presence. The daughter of Zhuo appeared to wish to remain unnoticed by others. She urgently called out to Su Yinzhou, regardless of circumstances, General Su, follow me. In an instant, she transformed into a violet shadow and dashed towards another direction of the high platform, one that led beyond the confines of the map. However, under Zhuo Zishan's guidance, Su Yinzhou effortlessly traversed the map's edge, arriving at an underground palace. The palace exuded an air of dilapidation, save for a central location that clearly had been recently prepared. At its heart lay a circular magical array. Having studied array theory, Su Yinzhou discerned that was designed to absorb spiritual energy. Yet, to extract spiritual energy, there must exist a source. The surrounding space was too barren to draw directly from the heavens, rendering such an effort inefficient. Soon, he noticed a slight protrusion at the center of the array. Before he could investigate further, Zishan spoke. Zhang Jiao is at the center of that array. The Lich King has employed this array to seize Zhang Jiao's power. Should you rescue him, there's a possibility he may repay you if you choose not to intervene. The timeline will proceed as usual. Su Yinzhou narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing Zhuo Zishan. In truth, I have realized from the outset that you have been guiding me to save Zhang Jiao. Although at times you have attempted to disguise this intent, it remains rather apparent. Zhuo Zishan retorted, "What do you mean by that? What are you implying?" There are numerous questions that arise. Firstly, why do you not rescue him yourself, insisting instead that I undertake the task? Secondly, what is your underlying motive for wanting to save Zhang Jiao, considering that in the annals of the Three Kingdoms, he is destined for demise upon his introduction? Thirdly, how many of your statements are genuine, and how many are false? Very well. Zhuo Zishan let out a soft sigh. She extended her hand and removed her violet veil. Revealing a visage of unparalleled beauty, she implores, "Look into my eyes, and you shall discover the truth." Yet, Su Yunzhou refrains from meeting her gaze. In truth, the veil worn by Zhuo Zishan cascades down, obscuring the northern hemisphere. At this moment, Su Yunzhou realizes the audacity of Zhuo Zishan's attire. Only the southern hemisphere is afforded warmth, while the northern hemisphere is laid bare beneath the sun, exposed in all its pristine curvature, delineating a captivating décolletage. As Zhuo Zishan prepares to utter a retort, she finds Su Yunzhou has raised his head to meet her eyes. They are eyes of such breathtaking allure that they seem to ensnare the very soul. In that fleeting moment, Su Yunzhou feels as though he is traversing upon fragile ice, each step potentially leading him into an abyss of unfathomable depths. Crack! The ice shatters beneath him. However, he does not plummet into the icy depths. Instead, he finds himself suspended in midair. Countless ebony butterflies swirl around his feet, lifting him aloft. His consciousness disentangles from the illusions. "Wua!" Zhuo Zishan cries out, releasing a spurt of blood. The backlash of her illusionary magic reverberates in her mind, akin to being struck by a colossal hammer to the back of her head, inflicting excruciating pain. Su Yunzhou's expression betrays no surprise, as if he anticipated this outcome. A pitch-black mask gradually manifests along his cheek, its edges shimmering with a faint, cold luminescence, concealing the emotions hidden in his eyes. A mental assault, he muses, brushing his fingers against the mask, his tone devoid of any discernible emotion. "The power is indeed commendable, yet you are far from breaching my mental defenses." No sooner had he uttered these words than he deftly wielded the sealing blade in his hand. In the next instant, the blade pressed against Zhuo Zishan's neck, its chilling touch rendering her rigid. "Allow me to speculate." Su Yunzhou leans closer, his voice lowered to a whisper imbued with intrigue. "Which faction do you represent? It cannot possibly be the underworld. If you were of their ilk, witnessing the demise of the Lich King would surely not leave you so composed. Moreover, the underworld may not possess anyone of your caliber." Zhuo Zishan, still dazed, had just begun to recover from the agonizing backlash of her illusion, her mind a cacophony of noise, preventing her from responding promptly. It was only when the blade pressed tighter against her throat that she jolted back to lucidity. Even as she comprehended the precariousness of her situation, a cold smile graced her lips. "Do you truly believe you can kill me?" With a slight exertion of his wrist, Su Yunzhou's blade pierced her skin, drawing forth droplets of blood. "At present, it is I who poses the questions, not you. Recognize your position." Cold sweat finally trickles down Zhuo Zishan's temples, cascading along her cheeks to stain her collar. It is only at this juncture that she genuinely senses the peril of death looming before her. As a formidable operative under the banner of lust, one of the 7 deadly sins of the kingdom of demons, she had come to this secondary realm to execute her mission. She had assumed it would be an effortless task, never anticipating that she would falter at the hands of an ordinary human. Had Su Yunzhou been privy to her current musings, he might well have erupted into laughter. Could an ordinary human summon a succubus high priestess? Could a mere mortal attract the attention of the mother of breeding? Could one engage in dealings with an observer of the apocalypse? As the train traversed an increasing number of realms, Su Yunzhou had long transcended the boundaries of what could be defined as an ordinary human. Perhaps, from the moment he acquired the aptitude for skill points, he had irrevocably severed ties with simplistic humanity. As he began to count down, his patience was evidently wearing thin. "You are merely a denizen of the realm of demons, or perhaps an envoy of the mother of breeding. It matters little, for I shall inevitably deal with your kind. Wait, I concede. I will divulge everything. Spare my life." Lef Zishan was thoroughly panicked, her voice tinged with sobs, all prior arrogance stripped away, leaving only sheer terror. "I am from the realm of demons. I serve the Lord of Lust within the 7 deadly sins, a seduction demon. I bear no grudge against you. The higher-ups issued a bounty, and I happened to encounter you here, which prompted my actions. I am merely an executor of their will. I never intended to oppose you. Su Yinzhou raised an eyebrow, poised to inquire further into specifics, such as the particulars of the bounty or whether the realm of demons had other hidden schemes in this world. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning streaked from afar, its speed too swift for any reaction. With a resounding crash, it struck left Zishan squarely upon the head. Blood sprayed everywhere, and the seduction demon fell silent, devoid of life. Narrowing his eyes, Su Yinzhou turned towards the source of the lightning and beheld an elderly man ambling into view. Clad in flowing white robes, wielding a feather duster, with hair and beard as white as snow, he emanated an air of ethereal wisdom, as if he had stepped out of an ancient painting. I hope this time the arrival is genuine, not some counterfeit, Su Yinzhou mused, a smirk tugging at his lips as he retracted his sealing magic, his tone laced with mockery. After all, having recently been deceived by Left Zishan, his trust in the indigenous NPCs of this world was profoundly diminished. Old man Left Ci, the elder said, approaching Su Yinzhou and performing a courteous bow, his voice imbued with regret. Young friend Su, I sincerely apologize for the misinformation you endured due to the infiltration of my realm. An apology is insufficient if it lacks sincerity, Su Yinzhou interjected, waving his hand dismissively, steering straight to the crux of the matter. I wish to ascertain one thing. Was that seduction demon truly your daughter? You allowed her to roam about under the guise of your offspring without noticing the anomaly? Left Ci sighed, his tone heavy with resignation. To speak candidly, young friend Su, the forces of the netherworld have long since begun to infiltrate the various realms under my purview. The world you currently inhabit is but one of them, and indeed, it is the one least affected by their encroachment. Later, I discovered that it was not merely the netherworld at play. The realm of demons, the abyss, was also involved. The netherworld was merely the vanguard they had pushed to the forefront. He paused for a moment before continuing, with so many powers simultaneously focused on me. Even after years of cultivation, I find myself at a loss, truly helpless. Enough with the helplessness. Master Zhua, Su Yinzhou interjected bluntly, without a hint of courtesy. I understand your plight, but let us not dwell on that for now. I have done so much for you. Surely my efforts deserve some recognition? Are you not considering offering me a token of gratitude? Zhuai was momentarily taken aback, seemingly unprepared for such directness. After a brief contemplation, he replied, compensation is not out of the question, but Su Xiaoyu, do you desire a wife? You still claim she is not your daughter. Su Yinzhou erupted at once, his voice rising an octave. That line is identical to what that illusory demon just said. You two must surely be long-lost father and daughter. There's no denying it. Zhuai shook his head seriously. Since I embarked upon the path of immortality, I have severed all worldly ties. I have never had a wife, let alone a daughter. Su Xiaoyu, I know you are eager, but please hold your horses. Once I resolve the matters at hand, I shall introduce you to someone, and then you may make your decision. With that, he gestured towards the center of the magical formation. The rectangular wooden coffin containing Zhang Jiao suddenly levitated in midair. Simultaneously, the coffin began to shrink until it resembled a palm-sized object, lightly slipping into his sleeve. Wait, what's going on here? Su Yinzhou observed this scene, his expression darkening. What kind of world is this? Can Zhang Jiao really be collected like that? Is he recyclable trash? Ah, you're unaware of certain specifics, Zhuai patiently elucidated. Zhang Jiao has had too much of his powers siphoned by the Lich King, and his body is now thoroughly corrupted by demonic energy. If he were to be resurrected, he would not return as the original Zhang Jiao, but instead transform into a new Lich King. You can think of it as the original Wolf King perishing in a pack. The demonic energy will seek out a new host to become the Wolf King. Su Yinzhou nodded, feigning understanding, though his thoughts were elsewhere. His mind was consumed with the prospect of compensation, pondering whether Zhuai might indeed offer him a wife. If so, could he possibly exchange her for merit points or treasure chests? After all, a wife pales in comparison to tangible benefits. Subsequently, Zhuai mentioned that he would take Su Yinzhou to a special place. Instantly, alarm bells rang in Su Yinzhou's mind. Following his encounter with the illusory demon, his trust in the NPCs of this world had plummeted to an all-time low. Who could say if Zhuai was yet another imposter, attempting to lure him into a trap? Zhuxiai evidently perceived his apprehension and said little more, merely raising his hand once again. Immediately, a system notification popped up before Su Yunzhou's eyes. The 95-27 merit points he had previously spent to reset the Book of Stealth were astonishingly restored. What is the meaning of this, Master Zhua? We are brothers. Su Yunzhou's expression changed dramatically as he laughed heartily, exclaiming, Is it not merely accompanying you on a journey? Can I not place my trust in you? Zhuxiai squinted at him, his gaze unmistakably conveying that he had not spoken in such a manner moments prior. Su Yunzhou, however, displayed a remarkable lack of embarrassment, his confidence palpable. After a brief walk, they arrived at the special locations Zhuxiai had mentioned. It was the deepest part of the underground palace, shrouded in dim light, with a soft golden glow emanating from the center. Upon closer inspection, Su Yunzhou realized that the golden light was radiating from a massive crystal, within which a figure was encased. It was a young girl clad in a flowing yellow gown, her eyes firmly shut, seemingly lost in slumber. Chapter 98, Zhuxiai. Let's make a deal. Gazing at the girl trapped within the crystal, Su Yunzhou inquired. So, Zhuxiai, also known as the illusionary demon, was aware of this girl's existence as well. Zhuxiai nodded. Indeed, they have invaded this world. And, aside from unique entities like the merit point shop that I've specially opened for you, they can sense everything else. Naturally, they are aware of this girl's presence as well. Turning his attention back to the girl in the yellow gown, Su Yunzhou pressed further. So who exactly is she? Do you all intend to present her to me as a wife? Do I appear to be such a frivolous man? Zhuxiai, however, refrained from answering directly and instead remarked, She is the daughter of Zhang Jiao in this world, named Zhang Ning. According to the narrative I have crafted, she will, in the wake of Zhang Jiao's failure, reflect on her circumstances and dedicate herself to studying the Taiping Tian Shu, mastering the path to immortality. A century later, during the Eastern Jin's conquest of Wu, she will manifest in her celestial form, fundamentally altering the course of history during the Five Barbarians' chaos. Su Yunzhou replied with a sigh. 6. He cast a sidelong glance at Zhuxiai, exasperated. What relevance does this have to me? Zhuxiai chuckled mischievously. In truth, this is merely her public persona. She possesses a corporeal form and can leave this world, making her a true living entity. My intention is to use her for an experiment, to see if the world I have created can exert influence over other realms. Su Yunzhou contemplated this. Thus, you aim to seize more spatial dimensions? It was evident that he had gathered some understanding of the divine beings. The so-called gods were merely a collective of landlords occupying various celestial realms as their dominions. Zhuxiai's motives were clear. He deemed his current territory too limited and sought to expand it. Now it made sense. He was under scrutiny from numerous factions because he had encroached upon their domains. And now, he wished to leverage me, to have this girl align with me, and join the game of celestial trains? From Zhuxiai's previous remarks, Su Yunzhou had unraveled the sequence of events. The notion of gifting him a wife turned out to be a ploy for assistance in this endeavor. With a knowing smile, Su Yunzhou replied, I cannot acquiesce to your request, nor do I possess the means to facilitate others joining the train game. Instead of seeking my help, you might as well approach the observers for guidance. However, Zhuxiai did not intend it that way. Su Xiaoyu, your words underestimate me. With a mere wave of his hand, this seemingly mystical sage conjured a train behind him. Since I have a notion, I have certainly made the necessary preparations. The train and its qualifications have been arranged, and what I seek is merely for this girl Ning to become your subordinate train conductor, Su Xiaoyu. Su Yunzhou raised an eyebrow. He had never come across the term subordinate train conductor before. Soon, he noticed that the crystal encasing the young girl was slowly disintegrating. The girl in the yellow dress opened her eyes and fell to the ground with a soft thud. She gazed around in confusion. Who am I? Why am I here? She then looked at Su Yunzhou and Zhuxiai. Were you two? Neither of them answered her inquiries. However, Su Yunzhou ultimately shook his head. Although the idea of a subordinate train conductor seemed to imply that he had gained an underling, he was also aware of the risks involved. The train game was a gamble among the gods, and Zhuxiai's brazen attempt to profit from it had already attracted the attention of many powerful factions. Even before its implementation, Su Yunzhou feared that the moment he agreed to this plan, he would find himself targeted by even more forces. Therefore, he could accept it, but he could not do so lightly. He needed Zhuxiai to provide benefits commensurate with the risks. Zhuo however, expressed astonishment. Su Xiaoyu, this matter can only bring you advantages, yet you refuse? Is it because she is not a lowly? It seems I have miscalculated. Su Yunzhou shook his head. It has nothing to do with her being a lowly. Zhuo, why must you feign ignorance? We both understand that if I take her in, I would be on the same sinking ship as you. At this point, Zhuo burst into hearty laughter. Good, good, excellent. Su Xiaoyu, I truly did not misjudge you. You are indeed suited to be a devil. Su Yunzhou smirked. In that case, let us strike a deal. On the high platform, the train conductors and the unparalleled warriors had gathered. Naturally, the warriors were off to one side, celebrating with drinks, while the conductors congregated in small groups in another area. It was evident that this was not the original Dynasty Warriors 5, but a product of alterations in the timeline. The original corpses could not have transformed into these blood corpses. The genre had shifted from combat to horror. I must say, these warriors are quite naive, believing that those blood corpses were conjured by Zhang Jiao. If he possessed such abilities, the Han Dynasty would have perished long ago. Indeed, I observed that even warriors like Guan Yu and Zhang Fei seemed to lack the capabilities of superhumans, resembling combatants from a martial arts world. At this moment, a tall figure appeared behind the conversing crowd. Yang Meng wielded a massive axe, his body drenched in blood, exuding an aura of ferocity that could instill fear in anyone. Immediately, the two train conductors closest to him were paralyzed with terror, collapsing to the ground. Where's Su Yunzhou? Yang Meng's voice was a deep and menacing growl, reminiscent of a beast's roar. He had randomly arrived at this station, anticipating a bloodbath that would yield substantial rewards. However, the outcome was disheartening. He had only accrued merit points for slaying the yellow turbans, and nothing more. His total merit points barely matched the 200 points Su Yunzhou had earned from completing the bridge task at the outset. In stark contrast, Su Yunzhou had single-handedly accomplished 3 pivotal tasks, each yielding 100 contribution points, monopolizing all the merit. Where's Su Yunzhou? Yang Meng inquired again, but silence ensued. Soon, a petite girl with twin ponytails stepped forward. Yi Liuli, her golden hair flowing, clearly disapproved of Yang Meng's behavior. What business do you have with Su Yunzhou? You merely wish to act impulsively and demand an explanation. Su Yunzhou earned his merit points through skill. Do you expect him to pity you and hand him over? You. Yang Meng glared at Yi Liuli, his rage palpable. The little girl, undeterred, stood tall and retorted, What? Are you just going to take your frustrations out on me? Don't underestimate my abilities just because I'm small. Do you wish to challenge me? Yang Meng cast a glance at her bag, knowing it contained a variety of troublesome pokeballs. Recognizing the challenge she posed, he chose to disregard her. His sole focus was to confront Su Yunzhou for an explanation. Chapter 99 Zhang Ning, the associate conductor traversing the dark edges of the map. Su Yunzhou returned to the original battlefield. Zhuo had informed him that he was unable to directly escort Su Yunzhou back to the train, leaving him to seek a means of departure on his own. At that moment, however, a girl in a yellow dress followed him closely. She appeared timid, yet her gaze was resolute, suggesting she bore some significant mission. Su Yunzhou did not deceive her. Instead, Zhuo proposed a straightforward transaction. He addressed Zhang Ning, stating, Zhang Jiao is currently in my possession. His body has been corroded by the essence of the netherworld, and without my assistance to suppress it, he will soon spiral into madness. From now on, if you enter into a master-servant contract with this young man, I will resurrect Zhang Jiao. At that moment, Zhang Ning had no leverage for negotiation. Should she refuse, Zhuo would not compel her. He merely sought a more compliant pawn. Conversely, if she agreed, she would join Su Yunzhou in the celestial train game, while the revived Zhang Jiao would follow the predetermined narrative path originally set for Zhang Ning. Everything appeared to be perfectly orchestrated. Yet, only Zhuo himself truly comprehended that he was, in the most genuine sense, the one who had been lured onto the pirate ship by Su Yunzhou. Moreover, the stakes in Su Yunzhou's dealings were exceedingly high, rendering him unable to refuse. Returning to the present, after escorting Zhang Ning out, Su Yunzhou swiftly returned to the high platform. At that moment, all the train conductors turned their gazes toward him. A portion of them had already encountered Su Yunzhou before, and thus, upon his arrival, the air was filled with excited exclamations. Su Yunzhou, it is indeed him. However, a fierce gaze, laden with provocation, soon fell upon him. To everyone's astonishment, Yang Meng charged at Su Yunzhou without uttering a word, brandishing his enormous axe, poised to strike. Yet, Su Yunzhou did not flinch or evade, despite the frightened cries of Qin Ruoxue and others, and Zhang Ning's instinctive attempt to intervene. Su Yunzhou chose to disregard it all. In the next moment, the axe cleaved the air just a meter beside him. Clearly, although Su Yunzhou had lost the tenfold enhancement of swift as the wind, his agility had far surpassed that of the other train conductors by 2 to 3 times. The attribute of agility bestowed not only enhanced movement and action speeds, but, more crucially, heightened reaction times. In Su Yunzhou's perception, Yang Meng's axe was slow, exceedingly slow. Thus, he was keenly aware that the opponent's strike was not aimed at him directly. As Yang Meng's axe descended, his voice dripped with bitterness. Su Yunzhou, this time, I concede defeat. But next time, I shall not lose. All the merit points have been snatched away by you. In this moment, I hardly deserve the title of Child of War. After uttering these words, Yang Meng stood upright, retracted his axe, and departed slowly. At this juncture, Su Yunzhou also observed a massive double door in the center of the high platform, wide enough to accommodate 3 or 4 individuals. Not only the train conductors, but also the marshal generals seemed to exit this world through those doors. Internally, Su Yunzhou scoffed. Was CI. Just how many games have you stitched together? Can such arbitrary settings truly be permissible? At that moment, Qin Ruoxue approached, inquiring. So, what exactly transpired? Why did you vanish earlier? Su Yunzhou, having long prepared a response, explained that he had merely explored the vicinity. In truth, the map of this world was not confined to the realm of Dynasty Warriors 5, allowing one to traverse beyond the boundaries of the map. Qin Ruoxue furrowed her brow. No wonder you initially chose to separate from us. Perceiving that her thoughts had been diverted by his explanation, Su Yunzhou opted to say no more. However, it was evident that a more pressing issue loomed ahead. Yi Liuli stood beside the two, perplexed by Qin Ruoxue's selective ignorance. She boldly inquired, But Su Yunzhou, why did you venture to explore the map only to return with a beauty of ancient charm? This is the spoils of my exploration. He replied. To Yi Liuli's astonishment, both Su Yunzhou and Qin Ruoxue uttered nearly identical responses in the same tone. Yi Liuli was taken aback, her voice trembling as she instinctively distanced herself from them. Isn't it rather inappropriate to treat a girl as a mere trophy? One should not regard young women as objects. Su Yunzhou stroked his chin thoughtfully. You make a valid point. He fixed his gaze intently on Yi Liuli. So, are you prepared to extend your benevolence and rescue this girl whom I have deemed a prize? If you can retrieve 2 energy crystals, she shall be yours. As he spoke, Su Yunzhou surprisingly seized Zhang Ning's wrist from behind and pushed her towards Yi Liuli. Yi Liuli was utterly bewildered, her mind racing with confusion. What is happening here? What on earth are these people doing? At that moment, Qin Ruoxue narrowed her eyes and addressed her. You appear to champion the cause of the downtrodden. Yet when it comes to making a real sacrifice, you hesitate. Indeed, individuals like you do exist. Yi Liuli felt as though a flame of frustration had lodged itself in her chest, rendering her breathless. She instinctively wished to retort, yet words eluded her. I am not. To her surprise, she rummaged through her satchel and produced 2 energy crystals, counting them meticulously before reluctantly offering them to Su Yunzhou. Here, take this. He accepted the crystals with a nod and then pushed Zhang Ning towards her. Now, she belongs to you. Turning, he handed 1 energy crystal to Qin Ruoxue, stating, Pleasure in our collaboration. Qin Ruoxue replied with a nonchalant nod, Pleasure in our collaboration. Yi Liuli gazed at the ancient beauty now nestled in her embrace. Feeling somewhat disoriented, Zhang Ning, in turn, appeared even more bewildered. Had she just been passed along like a second-hand item? Nevertheless, Yi Liuli was indeed a kind-hearted individual. She gently caressed Zhang Ning's head, offering her a series of comforting words before finally declaring, You are free now. Zhang Ning stood frozen in place. I am free. What am I to do now? Should I still concern myself with the train game? Should I continue to regard Su Yunzhou as my master? Before long, the final moments of the 12-hour period slipped away slowly. The indigenous warriors had already departed this world through the double doors. Strangely, before leaving, each sought an open space to demonstrate their skills with their respective weapons, perhaps a unique characteristic of this realm. Soon after, Su Yunzhou and the other train conductors departed from the scene. Once everyone had left, the small soldiers vacated the map as well. The entire world became desolate. Zhang Ning suddenly found herself laughing and crying simultaneously, feeling as though the universe had played an elaborate joke on her. Or perhaps, she was the joke herself. Rising to her feet, she moved through the open doors like a mere shell of her former self. In the next moment, a message appeared. Welcome to Train Survival. Your identification number is G210001, assigned to Zone G2. Chapter 100, Blood Contract Boss, you've finally returned. Fina exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as she spotted Su Yunzhou entering through the train doors. She eagerly rushed to his side, showering him with warm inquiries. I've timed it perfectly and prepared all the meals. With a feigned shy demeanor, she lowered her gaze, her fingers playfully touching her delicate red lips. Unable to meet Su Yunzhou's eyes. Master, would you prefer to eat first, take a bath, or shall we indulge in each other? By now, Su Yunzhou had discerned the girl's patterns. Addressing him as boss indicated a conventional superior-subordinate relationship, while calling him master signified a more intimate mode. Fina clearly understood that Su Yunzhou responded more favorably when referred to as master. He affectionately ruffled her hair, saying, I'm covered in the scent of blood. Let me bathe first. Oh, and I need to tell you something. Regardless of the circumstances, Zhang Ning had also come to regard Su Yunzhou as her boss. He briefly recounted his earlier encounter with Zhang Ning to Fina. A new addition to the harem? Su Yunzhou shook his head. Not quite. You know I dislike forcing others. Is that so? Fina replied. Su Yunzhou knelt down, and Hakamai bounded over, sitting in front of him in a pleasing manner. Having gained intelligence, Hakamai recognized who was the head of the household and now exhibited an enthusiastic demeanor towards Su Yunzhou. Standing up, Su Yunzhou clapped his hands against his chest. In response, Hakamai leaped gracefully onto Su Yunzhou's chest, nestling comfortably in his embrace, willingly enjoying the affection. Many cat lovers often lament how, despite their kindness, their cats remain distant. Su Yunzhou could only suggest that if one treats a cat like royalty, it will certainly adopt an aloof attitude. When he set Hakamai down, the cat effortlessly flipped and landed on all fours. Presently, Hakamai's physical prowess was such that he could withstand a fall from heights, even 10 meters, without any harm. Of course, this pertains to a normal landing, where a cat utilizes its supple body to absorb the impact. However, if dropped from 10 meters in an unconscious state, Hakamai could still sustain injuries. Following Hakamai's antics, the mechanical dog Wankai also emerged, its screen displaying an array of expressions. Su Yunzhou, adhering to custom, gently patted Wankai on the head. Although this creature was a mechanical creation, its programming seemingly mirrored that of a dog, exhibiting a remarkable enthusiasm for its master. Even circling around Su Yunzhou. All right, I shall take a shower, he announced before making his way to the bathroom. The train car was initially equipped with a bathroom, but due to water resource constraints, Su Yunzhou had refrained from utilizing it. Now at long last, he could forego the laborious task of scooping water from a bucket for his bath, opting instead for a refreshing shower. While a bathroom was indeed present, a water heater had been absent until he procured one from other conductors after reaching the second tier. With the luxury of unlimited power supply, Su Yunzhou relished the experience of hot water. Bathing was truly a delightful affair. Upon emerging from a shower, a lavish spread of delectable dishes awaited on the dining table. Wankai was recharging, while Hakimi showcased cat food and canned meat. Su Yunzhou and Fina sat across from each other, savoring a meal of 4 dishes and a soup. The family of 4 enjoyed a harmonious atmosphere. Fina opened a bottle of low-alcohol cocktail, raising her glass. Cheers, boss. Cheers, he replied. As they dined, Fina expressed her concern. I hadn't tea-felt it before, but now, with each stop lasting 12 hours, I cannot accompany you, and I often feel uncertain within the train. Su Yunzhou responded. You must adapt to this reality sooner rather than later. I have observed that the train game seems to impose numerous restrictions on beings like you. I have seen other summoners who utilize mediums to summon their combat forces, yet your presence at my side is indeed rare. Fina inquired, do you know what causes this? Boss. Su Yunzhou stroked his chin in contemplation. I have a hypothesis, though it may not be accurate. I suspect that many stations have limited entry quotas. The train game does not ferry us to those celestial stations without cost. Often, it must impose restrictions on entry, and there are also limitations when departing from those stations. At this point, Su Yunzhou chuckled. However, you need not worry excessively. If I were to perish, it is likely the train would meet its demise as well. And those of you aboard would face a dire fate. Fina, overwhelmed with emotion, began to weep. No, boss. I do not wish for such a future. I don't want you to die. You must live on with me. Su Yunzhou keenly sensed something amiss. Do you have something you wish to ask of me? Is it necessary to cry so dramatically? He knew Fina was not the type to indulge in such tearful displays, and he said tersely, Speak your mind. With a hint of a smile, Fina composed herself, albeit weakly stating, Actually, I have been secretly studying a little secret technique. Su Yunzhou squinted, intrigued. A little secret technique? What is its nature? Soon after, Fina handed a small card to Su Yunzhou. The decision lies with you, boss. As Su Yunzhou took the card, he noticed a faint thread of blood connecting Fina to the card. This thread was not physical, but rather an energy form, intangible yet effectively linking Fina to the card. Su Yunzhou soon realized that it was a skill card. He was momentarily astonished. You can craft skill card by hand? Fina scratched her head, a hint of embarrassment on her face. Actually, it was something I pondered over deeply, and it can't be mass-produced. Su Yunzhou's expression fell. All right. He then examined the skill card in his hand. Blood Pact, Fina Angelo, type, skill card, skill level, B skill effect, upon use. It consumes 10 years of Fina Angelo's lifespan, allowing the user to disregard conventional spatial laws and teleport to Fina Angelo's side. Cool down, 24 hours. Description, life and death. Bound together, a vow made with you. Su Yunzhou found himself at a loss for words. His heart stirred with a mix of emotions, gratitude and joy, but he was unsure how to express them. I am truly remarkable, no words needed. Fina felt Su Yunzhou's gaze fixed upon her, unable to meet his eyes. Boss, did I do well? You are fantastic. Su Yunzhou devoured his food with fervor before playfully pushing Fina onto the bed. Now, tell me, what reward do you desire? Fina's face flushed crimson, her entire being trembling with excitement. Hakimi, sensing the tension, exclaimed, We can't stay in this compartment. Quick retreat. Just as it darted towards the door. Attempting to leap up to open the handle, it was met with an unexpected splash of water. Meow. Hakimi immediately bristled in protest. Chapter 101. The purple treasure chest 2. Several hours later, outside the train, the wasteland stretched endlessly. The clouds danced across the horizon, the sun occasionally hiding behind them, only to later cast its rays upon the earth. No matter how far the train traveled, the scenery of the wasteland remained as enchanting as it had been upon their first encounter. Su Yunzhou awoke in a daze, glancing at the time. He then tidied up the dishes on the table, tossing them into the sink. Turning on the faucet, he let the pots and pans soak, adding a bit of dish soap. This way, it would be easier for Fina to wash them later. As for Fina, she lay sprawled across the bed, utterly devoid of grace, resembling a drenched cat. Su Yunzhou certainly wouldn't call her to work at this moment. Although Fina wouldn't mind, it felt too inconsiderate. Looking around, he found Hakimi had scurried off somewhere, and Wang Kai was in a state of slumber. Seizing this rare moment of leisure, he settled onto the sofa and began to tally the spoils from their last stop. Without a doubt, the most significant acquisition from this station was the Taoist Scroll of Escape. This extraordinary skill book, although it cannot be directly learned, is classified as an S-rank skill book. Through diligent study of its contents, Su Yunzhou is perhaps not far from achieving immortality. This is merely Su Yunzhou's conjecture. He stroked his chin, refraining from immediately allocating points to the escape technique, and instead retrieved a treasure chest. Indeed, it was a treasure chest, not merely 6 blue treasure chests. Prior to parting ways with Zhuo, Su Yunzhou initially intended to exchange all his battle merit points for blue treasure chests. However, a sudden inspiration struck him, prompting him to inquire whether he could trade for something else given the substantial number of battle merit points at his disposal. After all, Zhuo had designed the battle merit shop with the assumption that most exceptional individuals would only accumulate around 3,000 points. Little did he anticipate that Su Yunzhou would achieve a staggering 9,000 points. Consequently, with a somewhat pained expression, Zhuo presented Su Yunzhou with a purple treasure chest and collected all his battle merit points. According to Zhuo's own words, this purple treasure chest was originally intended for individuals at the 3rd or 4th tier. Yet, since Su Yunzhou had amassed over 9,000 battle merit points, This was the only item of sufficient value he could offer. To Su Yunzhou's astonishment, even Zhuo, within the confines of the world he governed, could not directly provide any material goods to him. He could only deliver items indirectly through the medium of battle merit points. Su Yunzhou speculated that Zhuo was likely ranked 1 or 2 tiers below the breeding mother goddess, possibly on par with the 7 deadly sins, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, or the 12 angels. Perhaps the succubus high priestess Lilith ranked 1 tier lower than Zhuo. Of course, Su Yunzhou's musings remained mere speculation, unverified as of yet. However, the observer had previously informed him that as one progresses further along the train platforms, they encounter increasingly formidable entities, with fewer restrictions on their abilities. For instance, on the 2nd-tier platform, Zhuo was nearly powerless. Yet on the 4th or even 5th tier, he could unleash a portion or even the entirety of his capabilities. This was precisely why the observer had asserted that none of them could survive to reach the 7th-tier platform, for at that juncture, they would confront the true divine beings in their complete forms. As Su Yunzhou's experiences with the train of survival accumulated, he discovered an increase in the intelligence available to him. Yet simultaneously, his confusion deepened. One paramount question persisted. What exactly is the Void Realm? The origin of the myriad worlds? Why do the gods collaborate with the observer in this grand survival endeavor aboard the celestial train? Nevertheless, it is best to take one step at a time. Pondering such matters excessively yields little fruit. Su Yunzhou gazed at the treasure chest in his hand. This was his first purple treasure chest, and to claim he felt no exhilaration would be disingenuous. At this moment, he also possessed 3 silver points and 82 bronze points. His rate of acquiring bronze points was 1 per hour, which meant that between every 2 stations, he would accumulate 48 points. During the 12 hours spent within the station, he accrued 12 points. As a result, Su Yunzhou soon realized that he was no longer in want of bronze points. He could experiment with everything. This was the true essence of boundless possibilities. With a sigh of marvel, Su Yunzhou picked up the purple treasure chest to examine its contents. Purple treasure chest, type, chest quality, epic effect, guaranteed to obtain 27 energy crystals and 1 epic grade item, with a minuscule chance of acquiring a legendary item. Description: its emergence shall be recorded in history. Subsequently, Su Yunzhou decisively invested 1 bronze point and 1 silver point to unlock it. Purple treasure chest 2 type, chest quality, epic effect 1. Guaranteed to obtain 27 energy crystals and 1 epic grade item, with a minuscule chance of acquiring a legendary item. Effect 2, acquire 1 legendary grade item. Effect 3, obtain 1 creation pill, legendary grade consumable. Description: even the most inept train conductor can soar to great heights upon receiving this chest. The second effect allows me to acquire 2 legendary grade items. It seems like a profitable endeavor. In reality, Su Yunzhou was reaping immense rewards. The probability of unearthing a legendary item from the purple treasure chest was infinitesimally close to 0. Yet he had exchanged a silver point, which took 24 hours to accumulate, along with a virtually inexhaustible bronze point, to directly obtain 2 legendary grade items. How could this possibly be deemed unprofitable? Placing the chest upon the table, Su Yunzhou felt a surge of excitement, his hands rubbing together in anticipation. He then opened the chest. Golden light, legendary. 27 energy crystals and 3 items materialized in Su Yunzhou's grasp. His gaze was immediately drawn to the resplendent golden pill, unable to look away. Creation pill, type, consumable quality, legendary, effect. Upon use, grants 5 to all attributes and 100 experience points. No usage restrictions or side effects. Description: simple, brutal, pure numerical enhancement, yet undeniably useful. Looking at the 2 remaining silver points in his possession, Su Yunzhou thought, damn it, let's enhance. The originally golden pill began to shimmer with a spectrum of colors, resembling an elixir of immortality. Washing marrow creation pill 2 type, consumable quality, legendary, effect. Upon use, grants 10 to all attributes, 200 experience points, 100 training speed, and 1 luck. No usage restrictions or side effects. Description: once a golden pill is swallowed, one realizes that fate is not dictated by the heavens. Should I save it for later? Su Yunzhou hesitated for but a moment before swallowing a whole. He had always been the type to instantaneously convert resources into combat prowess. Hoarding was not a viable strategy. With the washing marrow creation pill consumed, he felt its power surging within him. A golden elixir swallowed into the abdomen. I began to comprehend that my fate is not dictated by the heavens. Su Yinzhou pondered. This phrase must pertain to the setting of achieving the golden core in cultivation literature, right? However, his thoughts were abruptly interrupted in the next moment. He felt nothing. No effect. Su Yinzhou immediately rose to his feet, only to discover that his limbs and bones seemed to move with newfound agility. He promptly grasped a crystal of energy. The rate at which he absorbed experience points from the crystal, which had previously flowed like a viscous liquid through a slender tube, now resembled the flow of ordinary water, neither fast nor slow. Chapter 102. Attribute points. My cultivation talent has transformed, my attributes have been enhanced, and my level has escalated by 2. Yet, upon consuming this elixir, why did I feel no effect whatsoever, as if these enhancements were inherently mine? At that moment, Su Yinzhou glanced at the effect description. Effect. Upon use, all attributes 10, experience points 200, cultivation speed 100, luck 1. No usage restrictions or side effects. No restrictions or side effects. Is that what it means? This is utterly outrageous, akin to modifying game data with a cheat. Goodness. First there's the concept of the research recommendation elixir, and now there's the creation elixir, which purely alters numerical values. Su Yinzhou chuckled helplessly. It's making me want to concoct elixirs myself. This alchemy is simply too powerful. At that moment, his level surged to 10 with the influx of 200 experience points. Your level has risen from 8 to 10, granting you 2 free attribute points. Current experience points, 16, 100. Your talent point allocation has evolved into a branching pathway, presenting 2 distinct routes. Please choose. Branch 1. Your bronze points are infinite. Gain 1 silver point every 12 hours. Branch 2. You permanently lose bronze points. Thereafter, all items can only be consumed with silver points, starting from 0 to 2. Gain 1 silver point every 12 hours and 1 gold point every 120 hours. Su Yinzhou was momentarily stunned. He gazed at the 2 branches, feeling somewhat perplexed. Why was he being presented with advancement routes? He stroked his chin, beginning to analyze. Branch 1 undoubtedly guarantees a minimum threshold. Everything I acquire thereafter can be assumed to start at 1. But will I be able to obtain gold points later on? Branch 2 directly strips me of that initial right, meaning all my attribute allocations begin at 2. As the saying goes, quality over quantity. 10 items of ordinary quality often cannot compete with a single item of superior quality. Moreover, the higher the quality, the more pronounced the disparity. By my estimation, a legendary item could easily surpass 100 epic items. Ultimately, Su Yinzhou resolved firmly. Is it possible to retain the first part of Branch 1 while adopting the latter part of Branch 2? To merge these 2 pathways? This is not feasible. The denial was brutally unyielding. Su Yinzhou was incensed. Is my enhancement truly such an inconvenient matter? I wish to augment my abilities. Just as this thought surged within Su Yinzhou's mind, he suddenly sensed it. The creation elixir that had been swallowed into his abdomen, previously imperceptible, now made its presence felt within him. A searing warmth emanated from his chest, spreading throughout his entire being like a wildfire, igniting a vast expanse. His body felt excessively hot, almost unbearable. This sensation of being filled with energy. The creation elixir, so this is what it is. Elevating potential, defying fate. How could I have overlooked this? This enhancement is indeed my most significant potential. Yes, with a primal roar akin to that of a beast. Su Yinzhou did not reject this newfound power. Instead, he continually absorbed and refined it. His garments were torn apart by the released energy, disintegrating into tatters. An indescribable, peculiar aura enveloped his form, a hue beyond articulation. At this moment, both Fina and Hakimi were evidently stirred by the spectacle. Fina gazed at Su Yinzhou, momentarily entranced. To her, he resembled the malevolent deity she had once summoned. Although the attributes of their energies differed, their essence remained the same. Is that divine power? Fina murmured in disbelief as she witnessed this scene. In her childhood, she believed that divinity was a distant concept. Yet she later realized that deities were closer than she had imagined. Lesser deities were merely more potent versions of humanity. She had effortlessly summoned a seemingly ineffectual, malevolent god. Now, it appeared that Su Yunzhou was on the path to becoming divine. A myriad of emotions surged within Fina: joy, sorrow, jealousy, and confusion. Her superior was about to ascend to godhood. Would she then become a divine attendant? It was said that one's temperament drastically alters upon becoming a deity. She hoped her superior would not change too much. In an instant, the radiance surrounding Su Yunzhou subsided. In truth, he was still far from achieving divinity. If one were to describe it, he stood with one foot in the void. Yet his innate strength had not yet reached even the minimum threshold. What are you two staring at? Su Yunzhou returned to normal, glancing at the pair, who were still in a daze. Boss, you seem to have transcended to another level. Hakimi thought. This human female and my superior appear to occupy different realms now. Meanwhile, Wangkai mused. 0101010101010101. Su Yunzhou chuckled and assured them, do not worry. With sufficient levels and time, you will inevitably reach this echelon. What he referred to, of course, was his innate ability to enhance. Now, the enhancement has transformed into a new form. The effects of this transformation include an infinite supply of bronze points, the acquisition of 1 silver point every 12 hours, and 1 gold point every 120 hours. Su Yunzhou casually tapped on the car window. Enhance. Consequently, his window morphed into exquisite window 1. Type, furniture item, effect. A beautifully crafted glass window, aesthetically pleasing and delightful to the eye. Description, chic, understated luxury, and tasteful. He then turned his gaze toward the pile of pots, pans, and dishes, enhancing them all. However, these items, rated as gray, inherently lack special effects. So the enhancements merely rendered them more refined, attractive, and durable. With this thought, Su Yunzhou suddenly produced a bottle of good juice. Currently, his backpack and the train's refrigerator housed over 100 bottles of this juice, all crafted by Fina. Su Yunzhou did not pressure her. She was free to produce as she wished, without obligation. He picked up the juice and opted to enhance it. Good juice 1. Type, consumable quality, superior, effect, provides a certain degree of healing, restoring 10 stamina points, with a random attribute gain. This effect can only be triggered once. Description, this time, the flavor selected was cantaloupe. What a splendid find. Su Yunzhou's eye sparkled. It's worth noting that attribute points are quite rare. Even a price of 2 energy crystals would attract buyers. Thus, after some contemplation, Su Yunzhou decided to release a limited stock of 50 bottles of good juice, setting the price at 2 energy crystals. Within just a minute, the stock dwindled from 50 to 40 bottles. Soon, the news spread across the chat area. Remarkably, the last 40 bottles vanished in merely 30 seconds. Chapter 103, Legendary Grade. Non-material nuclear fusion acceleration module, Card 1. Su Yunzhou shook his head. Upon entering the second tier, he realized that he was no longer surrounded by ordinary individuals. In the first tier, many had never even encountered energy crystals before their demise. Yet, it appeared that most now possessed them. It stands to reason, without upgrading their levels, one's attributes cannot improve, making energy crystals a vital currency. For trained conductors endowed with talents, energy crystals are even more crucial, as upgrades not only enhance attributes, but also strengthen their talents. Su Yunzhou stroked his chin, pondering whether he had priced them too low. With 100 energy crystals credited to his account, he shook his head. Perhaps only the top 50 conductors could afford to casually part with such energy crystals. The vast majority likely possessed only 2 or 3, barely sufficient for their own upgrades, let alone to purchase items. Su Yunzhou opted not to list a new batch of good juice 1, instead preparing to barter the remaining juice. Certainly, he did not intend to undertake this task personally. Rather, he chose to grant Fina the necessary permissions to proceed. While Fina herself was not authorized to access the train's chat or the trading system, Su Yunzhou had the discretion to selectively bestow such permissions upon her. The duration and type of access could be configured according to his wishes. Su Yunzhou even conducted an experiment, discovering that he could extend permissions to Hakimi as well. After bestowing trading privileges upon Fina, Su Yunzhou resumed his examination of the purple treasure chest, which contained 2 remaining items, one of epic quality and the other of legendary quality. The epic item was a tome bound in obsidian black. Grimoire of Dark Magic. Type: book weapon quality, epic attack, enhances dark magic damage and chance speed. Effect 1. This is a book that can be read. Comprehending its contents grants a low probability of randomly acquiring dark magic skills. Effect 2. When this grimoire is equipped and dark magic is chanted, it provides a chance speed increase of 10 and an additional 5 dark magic damage, stacking up to 5 times. Effect 3. When used for melee attacks, the book inflicts dark magic damage equivalent to the attack power and restores an equal amount of mana. Description: knowledge truly is power in every conceivable sense. As Su Yunzhou turned to the first chapter, he caught a glimpse of the title. Chapter 1. The fundamental energy units of dark magic elements. It stated, the foundational energy unit of dark magic is the void particle, V, whose spin quantum number satisfies S1, 2, imaginary spin, and its projection in three-dimensional physical space adheres to the non-Hermitian operator HVK 2JT, where K represents the dark entropy conduction coefficient, and J denotes the time-dissipative tensor of the void particle. When a void particle is in its ground state, its energy density V must comply with the following integral equation. Suddenly, Su Yunzhou felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, followed by an overwhelming drowsiness. "Damn it, this book is problematic," he exclaimed. No wonder it's a tome of dark magic. Even reading it casually is influenced by dark magic. How terrifying, how utterly terrifying. With that, he equipped this dual-purpose tome as both a book and a weapon, carelessly tossing it to Fina. Grimoire of Dark Magic 1. Effect 1. This is a book that can be read. Comprehending its contents provides a moderate probability of randomly acquiring dark magic skills, with a potential increase of 0 to 100 in dark magic damage as reading progresses. Effect 2. When this grimoire is equipped and dark magic is chanted, it grants a chance speed increase of 20 and an additional 10 dark magic damage, stacking up to 10 times. Effect 3. When used for melee attacks, the book inflicts real dark magic damage equivalent to the attack power and restores an equal amount of mana. As a spellcaster, you may as well hold on to it. I don't expect you to comprehend it anyway. Fina gingerly caught the book that Su Yunzhou had tossed her way, immediately sensing a familiar energy coursing through her hands. She casually flipped a page, swiftly scanning the text with a keen eye. Then, Fina cast a feeble glance at her superior, secretly pondering, how could the boss underestimate my comprehension of such simple content? Am I truly perceived as a fool? Yet, being the little fool of the boss seems rather delightful. Unbeknownst to her, the spectral feline Hakimi had stealthily positioned itself behind Fina, fixating intently on the book she held. However, after a brief moment of scrutiny, it appeared to lose interest and turned away. How could a little kitty ponder such complexities? All this cat needs to think about is when mealtime arrives. It can only be said that the intelligence of the spectral cat has indeed awakened, yet its inherent flaws have remained intact. Observing this scene, Su Yunzhou stroked his chin. Hakimi could indeed be categorized within the realm of necromancy, perhaps even touching upon dark magic. Might this book serve as a weapon for Hakimi? Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. With me, Yumi, I am filled with frustration. Magical kitty, garlic bird, garlic bird. Lastly, Su Yunzhou gazed at the sole remaining legendary item in his possession. He had envisioned acquiring legendary equipment, skills or consumables, ideally an elixir of legend. However, the reality was that such acquisitions did not significantly enhance his current capabilities. Inertial Fusion Acceleration Module Card 1 Type Acceleration Module Effect divided into 4 acceleration levels. The 4th level can achieve 15 times the speed of light, with internal fuel lasting up to 1 year. Once the fuel is depleted, 222 energy crystals or equivalent energy stones are required to replenish it. Description: do not return. This is not home. Indeed, this was an acceleration module card, entirely unsuitable for Su Yunzhou's current needs. 15 times the speed of light. What a jest. He currently felt that a train speed of 100 kilometers per hour was exhilarating, as it rarely allowed monsters to catch up. Nevertheless, Su Yunzhou understood well that the train speed was undoubtedly crucial, and exceedingly so. The entities pursuing the train had been clearly indicated by observers to be beyond their capacity to confront. Should he be overwhelmed, the observer would have no choice but to abandon their avatar, lest their true form succumb to corruption, ultimately leading to annihilation. Realizing this, Su Yunzhou recognized that he must never be overtaken. Within the train's chat room, sporadic instances of frantic utterances began to emerge. Initially, everyone assumed those individuals were merely succumbing to the pressures of their circumstances. Eventually, it became evident that an indescribable presence lurked behind the train, and should the journey fall short, they would be assimilated by that very entity. Thus, Su Yunzhou comprehended the paramount importance of speed. The velocity must be swift. While he may not currently require 15 times the speed of light, he would certainly not consider selling such a card. Due to the low likelihood of immediate necessity, Su Yunzhou decided against utilizing the assembly for now. When the time comes to activate it, he would add a bit more without hesitation. As he progressed to Chapter 104, titled The Breeding of the Blasphemous Card, he successfully assembled the non-work material nuclear fusion acceleration module. This module was accompanied by 3 additional compartments, which must be connected to the train, one directly behind the engine, one in the middle, and one at the rear. He was cautioned to ensure that there were no conflicts with other modules requiring compartments. Otherwise, the installation would fail. Upon completion of the installation, Su Yunzhou was pleasantly surprised to find that his train had indeed gained 3 new compartments. Initially, he had anticipated that these compartments would house the power system for the legendary acceleration device. However, he soon realized that while the power systems were present, they resided at the base of the compartments, leaving the newly added sections entirely empty. Though these were not temperature-controlled compartments suitable for habitation, they could be utilized for storing supplies. While Su Yunzhou possessed a storage compartment with 100 slots, it was inadequate for perishable food items. The several large freezers he had previously relocated from the peculiar university now sat unused and gathering dust in the storage compartment. Previously, there had been no necessity or space for them. Now, however, Su Yunzhou decided to retrieve all 10 large freezers and place them in 2 of the empty compartments. Once powered, all 10 began to cool. He chuckled, noting that this arrangement would effectively preserve his food. At that moment, Fina approached him, saying, "Boss, there you are. You must see today's catch. It seems rather unusual." Raising an eyebrow, Su Yunzhou observed Fina holding a fishing hook with a floundering yellow fish, approximately the length of her arm, occasionally flicking its tail. Upon closer inspection, he felt an odd familiarity but could not place it. He proceeded to identify the fish. Fortunate fish quality. Perfect effect. Consuming this fish grants 1 point of luck for 30 minutes. This effect can only be enjoyed by the first 3 life forms to consume it. Description: a fish that brings good fortune to others, yet seems to be rather unfortunate itself. With a simple gesture, he discovered that the duration of the effect extended to 12 hours, though no other changes occurred. He decided to place the fish in water, intending to cook it for a meal when they approached the next destination, as it would provide a temporary buff. Fina nodded in understanding and departed, while Su Yunzhou continued to arrange some large appliances that had been left idle due to space constraints into the compartments. He then returned to the temperature-controlled compartment. Recently, the weather on the desolate land had not been excessively extreme, hovering between 15 to 30 degrees Celsius. However, the temperature difference between day and night was significant, and without proper warmth during the night, an ordinary person's health could easily deteriorate. Certainly, Su Yunzhou is absolutely unconcerned about this issue at present. After meticulously sorting through the resources within the violet treasure chest, he finally retrieved the long-dormant deity breeding token. With every 10 levels he ascends, he has the opportunity to enhance the quality of the deity breeding token and unlock a new effect. Effect to be unlocked. Su Yunzhou attempted to activate it with his thoughts, subsequently receiving a notification. 1. Random promotion. Ascend in a random direction, unlocking a random ability, though it will ultimately remain tethered to the fate of the breeding deity. 2. Fusion promotion. It has detected skills, equipment, or items within you that possess breeding characteristics, allowing for their fusion to obtain a specific enhancement. The original skills, equipment, or items will not vanish and can still be utilized independently. Upon observing option 1, Su Yunzhou instinctively felt averse. He detested randomness, especially since the deity breeding token might entail negative effects, inadvertently transforming him into a mere plaything of fate. However, the fusion promotion? His mind instantly recalled the 2 skills he possessed: Gift of the Fertility Goddess Eye and Safe Birthing Technique Eye. Most importantly, option 2 bore no adverse repercussions. Su Yunzhou would incur no costs and could ascertain the direction of a new effect. To induce pregnancy in others and ensure safe delivery? Surely, this does not suggest I am to become a modern-day Balzac? Su Yunzhou sighed with resignation. If heaven bestows great responsibility upon me, I can only accept it with humility. Fusion promotion, swiftly now. Deity breeding token I, type, unique concept quality, perfect, effect 1, deity S destiny. The quality will advance with a holder's level, increasing by 1 tier every 10 levels. Effect 2, breeding deity's punishment. Life forms bearing your bloodline will possess extraordinarily terrifying innate abilities, and you shall wield complete dominion over their existence. However, the number of offspring you can produce will be stringently limited. Current 2. Each upgrade of the deity breeding token will increase this value by 1. Effect 3. Blessed fertility. Bestows a sacred blessing of fertility upon designated targets within a 100-meter radius, inducing them to conceive a random number of specific insectoid larvae. The upper limit of the random number is determined by the recipient size, which will rapidly give birth within 130 minutes. Note, the specific insectoid larvae birthed through this method are devoid of reason, uncontrollable, violently murderous, perpetually famished, and will perish within a short span. Effect 4, unknown. Unlocked upon advancing to the next quality tier. Description: after enduring the initial punishment, you begin to usurp the authority of the breeding mother goddess. Taboo: rending the fate token will randomly bestow upon you an exceedingly difficult curse to dispel. Su Yunzhou now bore the expression of an elderly subway commuter engrossed in his mobile device. Is this breeding mother goddess serious? It seems she idly spends her days implanting insect eggs within others. Distasteful. Su Yunzhou initially believed that having Yi Feng conceive twins was already an extraordinary feat indeed. He possessed a modicum of self-awareness. However, he was unprepared for the realization that this nurturing goddess was the true embodiment of divine selection. Su Yunzhou mused inwardly. Unless absolutely necessary, I would certainly refrain from employing such abilities casually. Subsequently, he stowed away the blasphemous token and began to browse the chatroom. With nothing else to occupy his time, he perused the lively exchanges, each participant a talent in their own right, articulating their thoughts with eloquence. At that moment, he noticed a considerable number of mentions directed at him. Brother Su, you are truly my kin. I implore you to release a few more bottles of that exquisite juice. For 50 bottles are utterly insufficient. Indeed, they vanish within mere minutes. I am still trading items for energy crystals and scarcely have the time to purchase any. Wang Yuxiao chimed in. Su Yunzhou, grant me a bottle of that fine juice, and should we find ourselves at the same station in the future, I shall ensure your safety. Upon reading this message, Su Yunzhou couldn't help but chuckle. Quite the bold statement. Yet, he soon discerned that this individual was, in fact, rather formidable. Following his declaration, a chorus of agreement ensued. Although the likelihood of the two randomly encountering each other at a station was slim, securing a promise from Brother Wang seemed worthwhile. After all, Wang's prowess was well recognized. At any station, he was a force to be reckoned with, capable of vanquishing both gods and demons alike. Were it someone else making such claims, I would undoubtedly suspect them of empty bravado, but when Brother Wang speaks, one can be assured of his authenticity. Chapter 105. Wang Yuxiao Su Yunzhou promptly reached out to Zhuge Hong. Having crossed paths with this individual at both the 11th and 12th stations, and with no animosity between them, they naturally became friends. Su Yunzhou believed that, as a strategist, Zhuge Hong would possess knowledge about various renowned train conductors. Wang Yuxiao, with his multitude of admirers, could not possibly be unknown to him. Before long, Zhuge Hong provided Su Yunzhou with insights. Wang Yuxiao, at the 11th station, faced a bizarre platform with 10 individuals. He disregarded the rules entirely, overpowering them with sheer combat prowess. Those with abilities capable of slaying ordinary individuals could only inflict superficial wounds upon him. At the 12th station, known as the Troll Prison, which was originally intended for a 6-person escape plan, he instead turned the entire prison into a scene of carnage, ultimately securing some basic supplies from the other 5 and leading them all to safety. In summary, after traversing these 2 stations and witnessing the ongoing discussions and promotions within the chatroom, Wang Yuxiao had become the G2's unanimously recognized strongest conductor. Upon absorbing this information, Su Yunzhou was beset by a perplexing thought. This does not add up. While a handful of individuals witnessed his rampage, The chatroom currently boasted 9,000 members. How could a mere dozen instigate such fervor? Did they possess organization and discipline? In response, Zhuge Hong offered a blunt yet straightforward explanation. The chatroom permits the uploading of images and videos. Someone fortuitously captured the events with a portable camera. Although the means by which they acquired it remain a mystery, the footage was indeed recorded. Following this was a video attachment that had been shared. The video, although brief at just over 100 seconds, captures the entire battle between Wang Yuxiao, standing at an impressive height of 1.8 meters, and a towering troll measuring 3 meters. Remarkably, Wang Yuxiao emerges unscathed, while the troll is left in disarray, its remnants scattered in various directions. Through this footage, Su Yunzhou also gets a glimpse of Wang Yuxiao's appearance, truly tall and handsome, with a sculpted physique that rivals Su Yunzhou's own. In terms of looks, Su Yunzhou could only concede that they are evenly matched. After all, beauty is subjective. Just as some prefer mature women while others favor youthful charm, there is no universal standard. However, both Yi Feng and Wang Yuxiao undeniably possess the countenance of protagonists. Su Yunzhou likens Yi Feng's appearance to that of a character from a Japanese light novel, likely to be associated with themes of otherworldly adventures, heroism, and quests. In contrast, Wang Yuxiao's aesthetic aligns more with the realms of fantasy, martial prowess, and urban settings, often accompanied by descriptors such as invincible, supreme, or the strongest. In essence, they each embody their own distinct allure. Should one inquire about Su Yunzhou's handsomeness, a comparison to Han Li might suffice. Zhuge Hong reiterated Su Ge, I still believe it's prudent to befriend such individuals. There's no need to escalate tensions unnecessarily. Su Yunzhou nodded in agreement, though he typically refrains from relinquishing control to others. He responded to Wang Yuxiao in the chat room. I accept, but you must demonstrate your capability to protect me. Moments later, Wang Yuxiao initiated a private chat and sent a detailed information panel to Su Yunzhou. Wang Yuxiao, level 6 attributes, body 44, spirit 12, agility 27 skills, perfect block D, sword counter E, greatsword technique D, riptide sword / C, mastery of swordsmanship B, equipment, exquisite breastplate fine, bronze plate pants fine, ring of skill fine, resilient courage, perfect grade weapon. Upon seeing this, Su Yunzhou couldn't help but express his astonishment. Quite impressive, he mused, while it still fell short of his own capabilities. It was evident that Wang Yuxiao could handle common challenges with ease. No wonder he exuded such confidence. However, Su Yunzhou shook his head and replied, your attributes, skills, and equipment do not impress me. They seem rather underwhelming. On the other end, a faint smile graced Wang Yuxiao's lips. An intriguing fellow, he thought. Previously, when he shared his panel with others, they were invariably awestruck. With a body attribute of 44, many who focus solely on physical prowess would hesitate to confront him. Not to mention his agility of 27, which ensured he was no slouch in speed. Moreover, his perfect grade weapon and B-level skill, mastery of swordsmanship, were each formidable in their own right. Yet, this individual, named Su Yunzhou, seemed entirely dismissive of his prowess. Wang Yuxiao snorted softly, humph, is he merely posturing? Subsequently, he noticed a new message from Su Yunzhou. Show some sincerity. Let me see your talent. Instantly, veins bulged on Wang Yuxiao's forehead. At this point, talent was hardly a rarity. Among those who survived to the second station, 1 in 10 possessed it. Moreover, as one endured the trials of survival on the train, many who initially lacked talent would awaken to it in moments of life and death. For instance, someone had previously shared in the chat room how, driven to madness by hunger, he mistook a rock for bread and ended up breaking a tooth when he bit into it. To his astonishment, he later found a piece of bread, palm-sized and delicious, in his hand. It was then that he realized he had acquired a new talent. Divine favor, the bread god, consumed 10 points of spiritual power to obtain a loaf of bread measuring 10 cubic centimeters. This can be triggered 3 times a day. Clearly, it was rather impolite of Su Yunzhou to inquire about another's talent. However, considering that Wang Yuxiao sought something from him, and Su Yunzhou was equally curious about his true capabilities, it was somewhat understandable. Nevertheless, Wang Yuxiao felt a flicker of anger. Yet, Su Yunzhou's next question extinguished his ire, leaving him feeling a sudden chill. Oh, by the way, what is your destiny card? How is that possible? The handsome man stood up incredulously. It cannot be. Absolutely impossible. How could this fellow know about the destiny card? Wang Yuxiao quickly deduced that Su Yunzhou must also possess one. No wonder he was unfazed by my panel. It all made sense. Clearly, I am not the only train conductor with a destiny card, and yet he queries me about its nature. Ultimately, Wang Yuxiao resolutely declined, "I'm sorry. I do not wish for the good juice." Evidently, he remained cautious, unwilling to disclose the intricacies of his destiny card. Individuals like Yang Meng, who flaunted their destiny cards as a badge of honor, were indeed rare. After replying to Su Yunzhou's message, Wang Yuxiao let out a sigh, somewhat exasperated. How is it that I, at such a formidable level, still lack spiritual energy? Truly, fate can be capricious. Yet, I have no regrets. Chapter 106. The photograph of an enchanting woman. While speaking, his gaze fell upon a photograph on the bedside table. Encased in an exquisite frame, it featured the profile of an extraordinarily beautiful woman. The image captured not just her profile, but also rendered her almost in a translucent, ethereal state. Nevertheless, anyone who laid eyes upon this photograph would be compelled to exclaim from the depths of their heart, "This woman is breathtaking." Wang Yuxiao tenderly caressed the photograph, his expression softening, filled with an obsession bordering on fervor. "I will rescue you. I promise I will." After gazing at the photograph for more than 30 seconds, several notifications popped up. As Wang Yuxiao's gaze grew increasingly resolute, he affirmed to himself, "I will. I undoubtedly will." Meanwhile, Su Yunzhou discovered intriguing content in the chat room. "My partner is trapped in a hellish realm, potentially enduring ceaseless torment. Yet, I am uncertain how much energy crystals it would require to rescue them. Should I even attempt to save them?" It was evident that the individual posing the question was deeply perplexed, tormented, and utterly helpless. At that moment, someone promptly replied with righteous fervor, "Sister, do not entertain the notion of rescue. Liberate both yourself and the other. Even if you manage to extricate them, they may not express gratitude." The inquirer responded, "I am male," smiling emoji. The reply came lightheartedly, "Ah, I hadn't noticed, haha." "No worries. As we continue on this survival journey, energy crystals will only become increasingly attainable. Fear not, this is not a grave issue. With determination, you will surely save her." This exchange elicited a chuckle from Su Yunzhou. Quite the turn, isn't it? Inspired, Su Yunzhou shared this dialogue with Fina, who had been tidying up. "What is this? Fina, take a look at this and let me know. If we were faced with this dilemma, would we save or not?" After perusing the conversation, Fina pondered briefly before decisively responding. "Boss, my advice is to absolutely not save." With a smile, Su Yunzhou nodded. "And the reason?" Fina, seemingly lost in contemplation, absent-mindedly stroked her chin. In truth, this epitomizes a classic kidnapping and extortion scenario. In such cases, 99 are fraudulent. Of the remaining one, even if you pay the ransom, the outcome is often tragic. Ultimately, both the person and the resources are lost. Hence, boss, if we were to encounter such a situation, we must never attempt a rescue. Su Yunzhou's expression danced between amusement and incredulity. "If you were truly ensnared in hell, should I not rescue you?" "Absolutely not," Fina declared. "And if I were trapped, would you save me?" She maintained her righteous demeanor. "Without a doubt, I would not. To be frank, I advise against you attempting to rescue me." Fina fell silent. Her gaze lowered. Su Yunzhou playfully nudged her. "You dare deceive the boss? Get back to your cleaning." "Understood. Hee hee." At this juncture, Su Yunzhou's attention shifted to Hakimi. "Meow? Hakimi, would you exchange your 98 lives for mine?" "Meow meow meow. That is a terrible deal. I refuse." Su Yunzhou nodded thoughtfully, acknowledging the sincerity of the request, yet he felt compelled to administer a mild punishment. He promptly embarked on a playful session of feline education, securing Hakimi's body and incessantly tickling him until the little black cat could no longer withstand the onslaught and let out a loud cry. Only then did Su Yunzhou relent. At that moment, he unexpectedly received a private message from someone he wasn't particularly familiar with. Zhang Qilong wrote, "Brother Su, I have something valuable. Could we perhaps trade it for 10 energy crystals? I understand that energy crystals are a rare commodity, typically sought after to enhance levels, and few are willing to part with them for resources. However, I am in urgent need. I've already asked several people, but none are willing to trade with me." Su Yunzhou furrowed his brow. He was not one to indulge in charity. He preferred transactional exchanges. Nonetheless, he held a favorable impression of Zhang Qilong, recognizing him as a diligent and earnest individual. If he claimed to be in trouble, it was likely that he truly was. "Show me what you wish to trade," Su Yunzhou replied. Subsequently, Zhang Qilong sent the details of the temperature-controlled cabin module card to Su Yunzhou, who was momentarily taken aback. "Are you certain? This item is essential. No one can predict how temperatures might fluctuate in the future, and in the event of extreme weather, lacking a temperature-controlled cabin could be fatal. Of course, if you possess an extra module card, then disregard my concerns." Zhang Qilong seemed to regain his composure, not responding immediately. However, after a brief pause, he insisted, "No, I must have 10 energy crystals. Time is of the essence. If I miss this opportunity, I will regret it for a lifetime." Su Yunzhou raised an eyebrow, sensing an undercurrent of intrigue. Something felt amiss. Indeed, it felt profoundly wrong. "Zhang Qilong, you would do well to reconsider. Are you truly willing to exchange a temperature-controlled cabin module for 10 energy crystals?" Presently, the temperature-controlled cabin was widely acknowledged as a necessity. Typically, its lowest price was pegged at 10 energy crystals. While not exceedingly rare, its fundamental necessity ensured that demand far outweighed supply. Consequently, those possessing 10 energy crystals had already secured a temperature-controlled cabin through various means. Meanwhile, those genuinely wishing to procure one lacked the immediate capacity to produce 10 energy crystals. Many had informed Zhang Qilong that if given a few stations' time, they could easily gather 10 energy crystals. Yet, Zhang Qilong remained adamant. He would accept nothing less than 10 energy crystals, and it must be done swiftly. In truth, Su Yunzhou would not mind parting with 10 energy crystals for the temperature-controlled cabin. Although he already owned one, he would not refuse an additional. On the other hand, he found himself in no shortage of energy crystals at present. After selling 50 bottles of exquisite juice, he directly received 100 energy crystals. Due to the fortuitous occurrence of heavenly energy crystals, he found himself in possession of a substantial quantity, including the 27 crystals acquired from the recently opened purple treasure chest. He now held a total of 165 crystals. Su Yunzhou stroked his chin, contemplating that if he were to acquire another temperature-controlled compartment, one could serve as a bedroom and the other as a living room. Currently, despite the expansion of his train's area to approximately 40 to 50 square meters, 4 times its original size, he found himself with a double bed, a small kitchen, a complete set of tables and chairs, a sofa, a cat nest, and a clothes rack, all crammed into this modest space of just over 40 square meters. While one could not quite call it crowded, after all, in his previous life on Blue Star, Su Yunzhou had lived in a mere 20 square meter abode. It certainly could not be regarded as spacious. Chapter 107. Lu Yunyao. With these thoughts in mind, Su Yunzhou no longer hesitated and promptly replied, "Purchase." Zhang Qilong's response was equally swift. "Thank you, Brother Su. Consider it a favor owed." Upon receiving 10 energy crystals from Su Yunzhou, Zhang Qilong was ecstatic, his eyes gleaming with joy as though he had just savored a fine vintage. His spirits soaring to the heavens. "Wonderful. I can finally save you." Despite his imposing physique and rough exterior, resembling a bully who intimidates both men and women, Zhang Qilong was, in truth, a kind-hearted hunter living in the mountains, always willing to lend a hand. However, his battles with wild beasts had indeed imbued him with a fierce aura. Ironically, having been raised in the wild with minimal parental supervision, he was nearly 30 and had yet to find a partner. Yet here he was, this rugged man who had never even held a girl's hand, tenderly caressing a photograph. The woman in the image was breathtakingly beautiful, adorned in a simple white gown, her long black hair cascading to her waist, a true embodiment of Eastern beauty, deserving of the title exquisite. By sheer coincidence or fate, the enchanting woman in the photograph was none other than the same individual depicted in Wang Yuxiao's photo. However, the poses and expressions in the two images differed slightly. Staring intently at the photograph for 30 seconds without so much as a blink, Zhang Qilong was presented with several prompts. Would you like to pay 10 energy crystals to establish contact with her? If contact is not established within 30 minutes, this opportunity will be permanently lost. Remaining time, 14 minutes 46 seconds. Pay, he exclaimed, clutching the 10 energy crystals that had yet to warm in his hands, and immediately opted to proceed with the payment. He carefully held the crystals before the photograph. Subsequently, he witnessed a flash of light, and the 10 crystals vanished without a trace. You have successfully established contact with her. She has sent you an encouraging message. In the next instant, Zhang Qilong discovered he had gained a new friend, Lu Yinyao. Thank you for your generous offering. Your willingness to give me such a precious gift shows how much you truly care for me. Zhang Qilong's eyes were bloodshot, his body trembling with excitement. Are you Lu Yinya? What melodious name. What must I do to save you? Apologies, due to special circumstances, you're unable to send messages to the other party. Upon investing energy to reach 20, you will be granted a 1-minute voice conversation with her. Each time you invest energy crystals, you will receive a response from her. Dear youth, strive harder. When you invest sufficiently, she shall descend beside you. Energy crystals. I desire energy crystals. I crave even more energy crystals. Zhang Qilong's eyes sparkled with fervor as he fixated on the photograph in his hand. The next destination would arrive swiftly. He would soon acquire new energy crystals. Zhang Ning has requested to add you as a friend. As Zhang Ning is your subordinate train conductor, the friend request has been automatically approved. Zhang Ning, you didn't even bother to leave your name before departing. I had to inquire in the chat room to discover it. This clumsy train operation is such a hassle. It took me ages to figure it out. Modern technology is so vexing. By the way, how should I address you? Should I call you master? After all, my life and death now rest in your hands. Su Yinzhu observed the barrage of messages, a frown adorning his brow. This fellow, Zhang Ning, was quite the chatterbox during their previous encounter, wasn't he? A facade of ancient manners while communicating online, it seems. Su Yinzhu replied directly. Just call me boss. By the way, if you have nothing pressing, refrain from contacting me. I can monitor your situation at any time. He then focused his thoughts, sending a set of primary resources along with some long-stored compressed biscuits to Zhang Ning. This action was not a trade, but a direct allocation. Su Yinzhu now possessed the ability to manipulate Zhang Ning's train at will, albeit with limitations on precision. However, retrieving items from Zhang Ning or dispatching goods to him was exceedingly simple. Currently, Zhang Ning's train was in its nascent stage, virtually devoid of resources. Su Yinzhu could hardly be bothered with the other party, opting for automatic management. If this individual possessed any genuine skills, he would not mind nurturing them. However, if she were merely an ordinary 18-year-old lass, albeit charmingly lovely, Su Yinzhu had no inclination to adopt a mere decorative figure. Moreover, as per Zhuxi's earlier words, it was sufficient for her to remain under Su Yinzhu's command. Whether to kill or spare her was inconsequential, as she was merely a pawn. Clearly, Zhuxi did not harbor the belief that sending a single individual to the desolate realm to partake in the train game would immediately bolster his influence. He would need to orchestrate the involvement of hundreds, even thousands, to effectuate any significant impact. In Zhuxi's eyes, Zhang Ning was merely the first of many test subjects. Thus, although Su Yinzhu had an arrangement with Zhuxi, he was not particularly invested in Zhang Ning. In the forthcoming period, Su Yinzhu would either engage in cultivation, participate in group activities, or delve into CCB. Soon, his 2 days of respite came to an end. He acquired 4 silver points once more. This time, Su Yinzhu allocated them to Corrupted God Card Breeding 2, Seal Demon 2, East Wind Cruise Missile Cannon 2, and Grand Backpack 2. Subsequently, omitting intricate details, I shall present the effects of the enhancements. Grand Backpack 2, Effect Enhancement. Expanded capacity to 500 slots, facilitating swifter access to items. Theoretically, it enables instantaneous weapon switching during combat, albeit it demands exceptional agility. Seal Demon 2, New Effect 6, Active Effect, Heaven and Earth Blade Slash, consumes 50 stamina and spirit, inflicting damage based on the expended stamina and spirit values. East Wind Cruise Missile Cannon 2, Effect Augmentation, automatically generates 1 cruise missile every 2 hours, with a maximum storage of 24 missiles. Original, 1 missile generated every 4 hours, maximum storage of 6 missiles. Finally, regarding Corrupted God Card Breeding 2, Su Yinzhu found himself unable to ascertain whether it constituted an enhancement. Initially, Effect 2, Breeding Divine Punishment. Possessing a life form of your bloodline inheritance endows it with exceedingly formidable innate abilities, while you shall wield complete dominion over its life and death. However, the number of offspring you can breed is severely limited. Current 2. The quality enhancement of the corrupted god card increases this value by 1 each time. After the upgrade, there appear to be no changes apart from the deletion of the phrase regarding complete dominion over life and death. Su Yinzhou had previously found this ability to entirely govern the life and death of his descendants somewhat bizarre. Now, with the removal of that statement post-upgrade, it felt excessively drastic. He stroked his chin, a myriad of thoughts flashing through his mind. Suddenly, an unsettling sensation coursed through him, and his mind erupted with enlightenment. Chapter 108. The Nameless Goblin Slayer. So that was it. The ability to completely control the life and death of one's descendants is also a form of curse, though it may not appear to be a negative effect. This is merely due to the lack of advancement. Abilities grow increasingly potent, and the divine authority expands correspondingly. If the primary ability of the breeding mother god can govern the life and death of her descendants, what might the intermediate, advanced, or even supreme levels entail? One could fear that she would possess total control over all her descendants, from their physical forms to their very thoughts. No wonder the observer conveyed that the breeding mother god could not bear children. Her offspring are merely her avatars. If we were to quantify the typical parental control over children as a scale of 0 to 1, then the control over the life and death of children could reach a level of 5. Clearly, the breeding mother god's control over her children exceeds 100, and it would not be an exaggeration to claim it surpasses even 1,000. Once her child is born, it will be entirely under the dominion of physical, mental, and volitional control, often referred to as subjugation. Upon realizing this, Su Yinzhou was instantly overcome with a shiver. If truly cornered with no alternatives, he would not hesitate to resort to soul transference for survival. However, given a choice, he would prefer that none of his future offspring were merely manifestations of another version of himself. Wait, if I were to bear a daughter, could that not lead to? This thought was too audacious, and Su Yinzhou quickly dismissed it from his mind. This was no ordinary predicament. He sharply deduced, it seems that the divine defilement token, while appearing to make no significant difference, has actually eradicated a potentially disastrous threat that could have arisen later. Moreover, this negative effect cannot even be erased by procreation. If I were to genuinely kill the progenitor and seize her complete authority, would I not also inherit this adverse capability? And does the enhancement now serve to assist me in eliminating future hazards? With this realization, Su Yinzhou finally exhaled in relief. Regardless, he harbored a certain disdain for this ability, primarily because it felt somewhat repugnant. To elaborate on this would delve into the ethical complexities surrounding human reproduction. Su Yinzhou was disinclined to explore this further, as the issue had already been resolved. Simultaneously, the train's announcement drew his attention. The train will arrive in 10 minutes. All train attendants, please prepare. Next stop, Goblin Dungeon, difficulty, level 2 type, solo, danger level, high reward level. Exceptional, special note. To forgive the goblins is a divine duty. Your task is to send them to meet their maker. Goblins, you say? They are rather familiar foes. Su Yinzhou recalled the time at the second station when he was almost surrounded by 100 goblins. However, now, he was confident in his ability to dispatch that entire horde without difficulty, since even foresight urged him not to let this group of goblins escape. He had no choice but to indulge in a long-awaited slaughter. He recalled the Dark Cat into its pokeball and activated the automatic exploration mode for Wonkai. Meanwhile, Fina looked at him with eager anticipation. Su Yinzhou directly stated, focus on your studies on the train. With the 12-winged shimmering blade angel around, your safety is assured. Yet, you are still too weak. The next station poses some danger, and I will not take you along. Fina's expression fell slightly with disappointment. Nonetheless, she understood that this was due to her own inadequacy, as she could not even protect herself. Fina then produced a tome of dark magic. Rest assured, boss, I will diligently study and master dark magic. I will become as powerful as you in due time. By the way, boss, take this. The young girl handed a small black orb to Su Yinzhou. The latter paused momentarily, casting a glance at the small black sphere, and nodded in satisfaction. Well done. Your reward is assured. He had a preference for employees who understood the importance of exercising initiative and actively enhancing their capabilities. Unlike Hakimi, who merely indulged in a cycle of eating and sleeping, waiting for him to bestow additional points. Little Kitty Could you not strive a bit harder? At this rate, when will you ever cultivate your essence, attain human form, and evolve into a catgirl? 10 minutes swiftly passed. The train emerged from desolation and entered a dense forest. Just a few dozen meters from the train, there lay the entrance of a cave, roughly 5 to 6 meters wide, shrouded in darkness. Scattered around the cave's mouth were the lifeless bodies of dozens of green-skinned, diminutive creatures with ghastly features and sharp teeth. Green blood seeped across the cave entrance, and a foul stench wafted in as soon as the train doors opened. Su Yinzhou disembarked from the train. A-class profile. Codename: Goblin Slayer. Unknown. Occupation: adventure level. Silver appearance. Under normal circumstances, he is clad in bloodstained armor and wears a helmet, rarely revealing his true visage. In special circumstances, those who have seen his face unanimously agree he is quite handsome. Combat power: Tier 3. However, when facing goblins, he can reach a pseudo-divine level. Skills: he has mastered all known skills that are particularly effective against goblins. Equipment: it is known that his armor can effectively withstand attacks from goblins, while his weapon can easily breach their defenses and inflict unimaginable damage. Character description: I do not save the world, I merely slay goblins. A man clad in armor, wielding a long sword, advanced through the depths of a dungeon. Along the way, he had dispatched no fewer than 100 goblins. He bore no name. Many refer to him as the Goblin Slayer, or simply Slayer. The Slayer was a taciturn, composed, and efficient young man. He discovered a concealed terrain, sheathed his sword, and retrieved a map. Prior to accepting the mission to eradicate goblins from this dungeon, he had obtained an internal map of the expansive area, exceeding 1,000 square meters. In truth, goblin dungeons often sprawled out like a web without a map. His efficiency in clearing goblins and rescuing captives would be severely hampered. To acquire this map, he had partaken in a few drinks with a seductive woman at a tavern. Next, he decided to head in that direction. The goblin dining area? Let's investigate. The monstrous, sharp laughter, the brutal acts of consumption, an eerie and absurd tableau. 3 to 40 goblins congregated there, engaging in gluttony and procreation while they feasted. The goblins are not a species that adhere to a strict feeding schedule. Rather, as a race characterized by communal roles, they periodically rotate in groups to partake in their repast. At this moment, the Goblin Slayer lurks in the shadows. Perched upon a high vantage point, his gaze icy as he observes the scene below. The tortured human females and the dismembered corpses of their kin are indelibly etched in his mind. Chapter 109. The Goblin Dungeon. The Goblin Slayer remains concealed above, not allowing his wrath to cloud his judgment as he refrains from recklessly charging into the fray. Instead, he retrieves a pouch filled with fine white powder, a neurotoxin specifically designed to incapacitate the goblin's brains. He scatters the powder delicately into the air. Its minuscule particles disperse like dust, nearly undetectable and certainly unremarked upon by those below. This powder possesses a subtle aroma reminiscent of decayed fruit, yet the goblins, preoccupied with their feast and engaged in a game of Russian roulette, remain oblivious to its presence amidst the amalgamation of scents wafting through the mess hall. After a minute of allowing the powder to settle, the Goblin Slayer makes his move, leaping from his perch with a swift descent, drawing his sword to strike down a goblin before it even comprehends its fate. The blade pierces through the creature's forehead, delivering a fatal blow before it can react. The human women at the table, long since numbed into a state of desolation, suddenly feel a flicker of hope. These women, hailing from nearby villages, had already occupied a lowly status, and with their hamlets overrun by goblins, the royal city had utterly forsaken them. No one would raise their voices on their behalf, nor would any armies be organized to rescue those deemed irrelevant. Yet, at this very moment, the Goblin Slayer has arrived. Like a harbinger of death from the depths of hell, he wields a sword in one hand and a dagger in the other. With each goblin he dispatches, he ensures their demise by severing their throats with unerring precision. The goblins, caught entirely off guard and further disoriented by the powder, stagger as if intoxicated, while their brethren fall before this human like chaff before the scythe. Fear finally grips the goblins, and they screech in high-pitched voices, the devil is here. Run, run, alert the warden. The enemy, the devilish enemy, has invaded." Just then, another contingent of goblins bursts forth, fully armed and resolute. They appear as if they have been lying in wait, poised to ambush the goblin slayer. This anomalous behavior chills the slayer's gaze, igniting a flicker of suspicion within him. He had recently scouted the area and found no goblins nearby. The sudden emergence of 100 well-trained goblins takes him by surprise. Had they been lying in ambush? Gosha found himself engulfed in uncertainty and apprehension. He had always held the goblins in disdain, never underestimating even the weakest, newly spawned among them. He would obliterate them with ruthless efficiency. At that moment, as a horde of goblins emerged, Gosha resolutely retrieved a magical scroll from his backpack. Explosive Scroll. Effect. Inflicts widespread fiery explosion damage. With this spell, Gosha was confident he could decimate half of the goblin force. After all, this scroll was capable of unleashing damage equivalent to that of a Grand Sorcerer's conventional spells, far beyond the goblin's capacity to counter. Goblins, dwelling in the depths of the earth, were not only averse to light, but were especially terrified of fire. Explosive flames were their most potent bane. Yet, inexplicably, the explosive scroll failed to activate. It would not work. What was happening? Gosha, typically composed, felt an overwhelming dread. A suppression array? How could there be a suppression array in a goblin cave? And right here in this cafeteria? How could such a place be ensnared in a suppression array? Gosha's mind raced. He sensed that every move he made was being anticipated. Someone was conspiring to bring about his demise. How infuriating. After slaying so many goblins, would he finally perish at the hands of these wretches? Ordinarily, Gosha was not one to utter excessive words. Yet today, he genuinely felt the specter of death looming near. Memories of the past flashed before his eyes. Even in death, he vowed to take as many goblins with him as possible. Gripping his long sword tightly, Gosha surveyed the ever-growing throng of goblins encircling him. 200, 300. No, there must be at least 500 goblins. In such dire circumstances, the inability to utilize his spell scroll meant he could not employ a teleportation scroll either. He had but two choices: to carve a path to survival or be overwhelmed and slain. Gosha clenched his sword and charged in a singular direction. He was not one to recklessly sacrifice his life for the sake of goblins. On the contrary, he cherished his existence. For Gosha understood that only by living could he hope to eradicate every last goblin in this world. With a sweeping arc of his sword, the well-armed goblins were utterly defenseless, cleaved in twain, their bodies severed at the waist. Just then, a sharp pain pierced Gosha's mind. He abruptly realized that the goblins he had slain were, in fact, humans. These individuals had been bisected, their blood and entrails spilling onto the ground, their anguished cries echoing in the air. Gosha stood frozen in shock. A searing pain gripped his mind as the horrifying scene nearly plunged him into darkness. An illusion. It must be an illusion. Despite the incessant mantra echoing in his heart, he could no longer lift his sword. This hallucination was too vivid. He could not discern reality from the nightmare. For many years, the Goblin Slayer had been aware that he could not fall prey to the illusions of goblins. Any form of mental control wielded by them would have no effect on him. Yet now, what transpired before him was bewildering. A pained roar echoed throughout the goblin dungeon. From the goblin clan to the level of a demigod, his journey had not been without hardship. A stunning and alluring woman gazed upon the robust figure before her, resembling a human yet possessing green skin, and spoke. He was referred to as the Goblin God, the sole powerful being of the goblin race who had successfully entered the realm of the void. The Goblin God's appearance diverged greatly from that of ordinary goblins. Rather than being merely a goblin, he could be likened to a handsome human with green skin and pointed ears. Setting aside the green skin and pointed ears, his countenance could indeed be deemed striking. With a demeanor of humility, the Goblin God addressed her. Mighty Lord of Lust, one of the 7 deadly sins, I sincerely have a request for you. Should you assist me, I shall present you with 10,000 purple crystals in full. Oh, let's raise an eyebrow, letting out a soft huff. Typically, as a demigod of the realm of demons, she would not engage in collaboration with a being like the Goblin God, a mere demigod. However, recently, the succubi had inexplicably stirred up a wave of pure love ideology, leaving her somewhat deficient in lustful energy. Although lust was known as the god of lust, she did not preside over the succubi as their little demon king. Thus, she lacked the authority to guide the succubi toward redemption. The 10,000 purple crystals were indeed significant for her current needs. Chapter 110. The Goblin God's scheme, lust narrowed her eyes. Goblin, you are aware that the desolation has seen the emergence of it, and the days are hard for the gods. If the so-called observer's train plan fails, a great battle among the gods is inevitable. Even in the realm of the void, energy crystals serve as the most fundamental carriers of power, convertible into any form of energy. Purple crystals are a superior variant, with one purple crystal equating to 10 energy crystals. Speak, what is it that you desire from me? Through gritted teeth, the goblin god implored. Help me devise a means to eliminate our greatest threat, the goblin slayer. Lust raised an eyebrow, her long, elegant legs crossed, casually resting one over the other. Goblin, I fail to understand why you wish to eliminate the goblin slayer. Your kin could simply avoid him. This wretched creature is pitifully weak. Even in the realm of the void, he dares only to hide within Twilight City. Moreover, given his frailty, he consistently ventures into lower realms to slay goblins, beings that seldom appear in higher realms. However, Lust shook her head. While I desire your 10,000 purple crystals, I cannot risk the danger of being tainted by it by traversing the desolation to eliminate the goblin slayer in the lower realms. Certainly, I would never be foolish enough to commit murder in Twilight City, as it would be tantamount to courting death. And even the Lord of Demons would be unable to safeguard me. Lust sighed helplessly, saying, I cannot assist you with this. Seek help elsewhere. The goblin god promptly replied, No, I do not require your help to kill him. I have my own plans. I only need you to provide a cup of chaos wine and ensure that he drinks it. Lust raised an eyebrow, finally understanding why the goblin god was willing to offer 10,000 purple crystals. Merely a single cup of chaos wine was worth 1,000 purple crystals. This particular wine possesses the ability to confuse the mind, causing one to see enemies as allies and allies as enemies. Its true power lies in its strong, disguising properties, allowing it to be masqueraded as any type of alcoholic beverage. Within the realm of dreams, there are no more than 5 demigods who possess chaos wine, and Lust is indeed one of them. Lust paused momentarily, nodding in contemplation. She believed that if it were merely this, it could indeed be feasible. However, she felt compelled to clarify. You should be aware of the nature of the goblin's abilities, for this cup of chaos wine is intended for you to deceive him into drinking. Thus, its effectiveness will undoubtedly be significantly diminished. While it should still have some effect, I cannot guarantee that it will unleash the full potential of the chaos wine. The goblin god, however, nodded firmly. He had been preparing for this plan for quite some time. Every aspect had been carefully considered and meticulously calculated. There would be no issues. As long as the chaos wine is effective for 5 minutes, I will have a way to eliminate that fellow. The goblin god was certainly not acting without purpose. Let us return to the present moment within the goblin dungeon. The scene before Goblin Killer was in constant flux. At one moment, he was surrounded by ferocious and grotesque goblins, and the next, they transformed into weak and pitiful humans, gazing at him in terror. Just then, a particularly bold goblin stealthily approached, landing a knife strike to Goblin Killer's side. Lacking any defense, the goblin's blade struck precisely at the vulnerable point in his armor. Goblin Killer is immune to most forms of mental control exerted by goblins and possesses a high resistance to their physical attacks. However, this does not mean he is absolutely invincible in the presence of goblins. The strike did not inflict severe damage, only managing to penetrate his flesh by a centimeter or two. Yet, it elicited a searing pain, akin to being consumed by fierce flames or boiled in oil. At this moment, Su Yunzhou hurriedly arrived at the goblin cafeteria. Upon entering through the cave's mouth, he noticed that someone was already engaged in clearing the goblin dungeon. Su Yunzhou was immediately puzzled. Wasn't this supposed to be a solo platform? Why were there others performing his tasks? This plot seemed amiss. Thus, Su Yunzhou followed the individual as they cleared the traces of goblins, leading him to this place. He too arrived at the elevated platform of the goblin cafeteria, where he beheld a startling scene below. A horde of goblins surrounded a figure clad entirely in armor, who appeared to be in a frenzied state, shouting wildly amidst the encirclement as if possessed. The goblins were gradually tightening their net, and a few audacious ones began to launch their attacks. In an instant, Su Yunzhou discerned the situation. The man had fallen under an illusion, and if he did not intervene, he would likely not withstand for much longer. To assist was imperative. The thought of a particular special prompt crossed his mind, To forgive the goblins is the act of a deity. Your duty is to send them to meet their maker. Given that they were both enemies of the goblins, he had no reason to refrain from helping. Moreover, Su Yunzhao felt an unsettling familiarity with the armored figure, as if they had crossed paths before. Resolved to lend aid, Su Yunzhao commenced his actions. He could not simply charge down alone. Uncertain of the nature of the illusion or whether he too had succumbed to it, he conjured a small, obsidian sphere in his hand. Obsidian sphere of silent domain 1 type. Consumable quality. Perfect effect. Upon sustaining a significant impact, it will detonate, nullifying all mental influences within a 10-meter radius. Maximum resistance to third-tier effects. Description. In an instant, the laws are subverted. Who am I? My inner demons dance wildly. This small sphere had been given to him by Fina before their departure. Possessing an abundance of bronze points, Su Yunzhao activated it without hesitation. The effect was formidable, capable of shielding against any mental influence, albeit limited to third-tier effects. Generally speaking, this black sphere could not counter the effects of Wine of Chaos, as they were not of the same tier. Water may extinguish fire, but a mere bowl of water cannot quench a raging inferno. However, due to the inherent characteristic of the Goblin Slayer, the potent Wine of Chaos would only exert a moderate influence over him. As the obsidian sphere struck the ground, a wave of dark energy surged forth, enveloping the surroundings like a tide. This energy arrived swiftly and dissipated just as quickly, vanishing entirely after a brief moment. Yet, at that instant, the Goblin Slayer broke free from the illusion. The effects of Wine of Chaos were wholly eradicated. Emerging from the hallucination, the Goblin Slayer once again regarded the throng of goblins. Indeed, he had not erred. He had not harmed humans. These were all wretched goblins. Following his fury came an even greater strength. The Goblin Slayer had entered a state of heightened power. Chapter 111. The self-service feast of the frantic rose. Su Yunzhao gazed down upon the scene from his elevated vantage point. At this moment, the Goblin Slayer was truly unparalleled, wielding a long sword and wreaking havoc amidst the goblins. The initially ambushed and well-trained goblins found their formations disintegrating, descending into utter chaos. With the first goblin discarding its weapon and fleeing, the entire goblin formation was thrown into disarray. Hundreds of goblins, crammed into this confined space, were in grave peril. Once their ranks faltered, they risked trampling one another to death. Not to mention, exposing their backs to the Goblin Slayer rendered them akin to lambs awaiting slaughter. Observing the scene below, Su Yunzhao pondered thoughtfully. The Goblin Cafeteria had 3 exits, 2 leading deeper within, and 1 facing the exit, which was guarded by Su Yunzhao. He had no intention of allowing this horde of goblins to escape. With a swift gesture, he tossed a pokeball. "Go, Hakimi!" With a resounding meow, Su Yunzhao pointed in a direction. Hakimi, block the fleeing goblins and eliminate them all. The sleek black cat executed a 720-degree spin in midair before landing gracefully. Almost immediately, a pair of pure white wings sprouted from its back, and it soared forth like an arrow. Meow! Hakimi flew confidently to intercept the fleeing goblin horde, rapidly enlarging into a colossal beast towering 2 to 3 meters high. In this cramped cave, it effectively sealed the passage, leaving no chance for any goblin to slip by. For the other route, Su Yunzhao summoned the frantic Rose. The girl, still shackled, exuded an air of deranged beauty. Yet, before Su Yunzhao, she displayed remarkable composure. He pointed to the alternate path, instructing, "Block those green-skinned goblins. Not a single one shall pass." The Rose furrowed her brow, expressing hesitation. "Boss, if I don't release the seal, I might be unable to then release the seal," he commanded. "However, if I do, I may lose control over my appetite." Su Yunzhao promptly unlocked her restraints, stating, "These goblins are yours to devour. Feast as you desire." In that instant, the frantic Rose transformed into the frenzied crocodile Rose. Her mouth opened wide, reaching an impossible degree that no human could manage, nearly forming a right angle. Her teeth, too, were not those of a human, but resembled the razor-sharp fangs of a shark. "I'm so hungry, so hungry, so hungry." Upon breaking the seal, her insatiable hunger overwhelmed her reason. Yet, deep within her subconscious, she understood her mission. Only the green-skinned ones were to be consumed. The plight of the goblins was utterly dire. Remaining stationary would lead them to be ruthlessly slaughtered by the frenzied, armored figure. Fleeing left would result in encountering the colossal cat creature that would rend them asunder. Fleeing to the right, one would encounter a human female capable of effortlessly severing a goblin's head and swallowing a whole. Alternatively, running towards the cave's entrance would lead one to a human wielding a blade. He may not appear particularly fearsome, yet every goblin that dares to approach him is swiftly and mercilessly decapitated. The goblins, unable to perceive the speed of his strikes, find themselves dismembered in an instant. At that moment, these creatures who revel in the suffering of humans finally display expressions akin to those of their victims. Pain, terror, and despair intertwine, prompting Su Yunzhou to hear once more in his mind. Because you have inflicted extraordinary suffering, the goddess of pain has taken notice of you. No, could this truly be? Is the goddess of pain harboring a secret affection for me? Su Yunzhou mused sarcastically, yet his hand wielded the knife with unwavering precision. Compared to Hakimi, Goblin Slayer, and the frenzied Rose, he was, in fact, the gentlest of them all, for his blade was swift, ensuring that the goblins seldom experienced prolonged agony. Nevertheless, the goddess of pain had indeed sparked an intriguing notion within him. His gaze turned cold as a faint green light emanated from his hand, cascading like starlight into the bodies of the surrounding goblins. Simultaneously, Su Yunzhou commanded, "That's enough. Spare the remaining few. Let them flee." Hakimi and the frenzied Rose, ever obedient to Su Yunzhou, promptly cleared a path. However, Su Yunzhou did not yield his own route to the cave's entrance. Soon, the ground was strewn with goblin corpses, and the remaining survivors hastily retreated. Goblin Slayer did not pursue the fleeing goblins. Instead, he inspected the fallen, ensuring that none remained alive. Su Yunzhou approached Goblin Slayer and remarked, "There is no need for such meticulousness." Goblin Slayer looked at him in confusion. Though they were strangers, Goblin Slayer recognized that Su Yunzhou had saved him, fostering a sense of goodwill. After a brief exchange of introductions, Su Yunzhou suddenly realized, "So you're the fabled Goblin Slayer. It is an honor to meet you." Though he had not seen the anime, he was somewhat familiar with its reputation. "Why do you say there is no need for me to finish them off?" Goblin Slayer inquired. Su Yunzhou gestured towards the frenzied Rose, who had completely unsealed her powers. In her haste to consume, her mouth widened, revealing a void that drew in the nearby goblin corpses. In Su Yunzhou's perception, it seemed that the frenzied Rose was gradually augmenting her attributes as she devoured her prey. Though the enhancement was subtle, once she had consumed all the goblin remains, the frenzied Rose's frenzied state dissipated, restoring her rationality. "I feel so full. That was delightful." Goblin Slayer observed the young woman with a furrowed brow. "Eating goblins. Surely, she cannot be immune to poisoning?" The goblin is indeed a most unsanitary creature, harboring an unknown multitude of pathogens. Su Yunzhou shook his head, remarking, "It's of no concern. She is not a typical being, perhaps more aptly described as an artificial vampire. However, this entity is not solely fond of blood. She possesses a greater appetite for flesh." Although Su Yunzhou offered this explanation, he himself remained uncertain. He only understood that the frenzied Rose was likely a manufactured species, birthed through the dark arts of blood sorcery, the handiwork of the vampire Vladimir. Thus, it could indeed be categorized as an artificial vampire. Gosha nodded in silence, refraining from further inquiries. The matters concerning goblins did not particularly engage his interest. He had faith that the girl would encounter no peril, hence he chose not to pry further. The frenzied Rose vanished from the scene once the summoning concluded, and Gosha paid no mind to the girl's disappearance. Instead, he turned towards Su Yunzhou and inquired, "Why did you release those goblins?" Su Yunzhou responded with a mysterious smile. "I have always believed that your method of exterminating goblins is rather inefficient." Inefficient? Have you ever heard of cockroach bait gel? Chapter 112. Goblin Prison. The crux of this plan lies in the fact that goblins, like many creatures, will consume their own kind. If we poison a portion of the goblins, causing the toxin to permeate their bodies without killing them instantly, they will eventually return to their lair to perish. Subsequently, the remaining goblins will devour the corpses. In this manner, through a chain reaction, the entire goblin nest could be poisoned. Upon hearing this, Gosha's eyes gleamed with intrigue. However, he soon shook his head, stating, "Such a method may work on mindless animals, but goblins possess intelligence. Once significant mortality occurs, they will suspect foul play and cease consuming their kin. Su Yunzhou, however, countered with a shake of his head, "That is not a concern I wish to address. I merely present you with a new avenue of thought. It is indeed possible to render the corpses of the poisoned goblins exceedingly fragrant and delectable. Although goblins are intelligent beings, they are utterly incapable of restraining their desires." At this juncture, Su Yunzhou was reminded of saying, "Brother, you smell delightful." Indeed, it was quite enticing, as evidenced by the hungry gazes of the surrounding goblins. He chuckled resignedly. "Well, that is not my concern. Allow me to clarify my reasoning behind releasing those goblins." Gosha nodded, eager to understand. Initially, he had thought Su Yunzhou possessed some form of goblin extermination gel. It surprised him to realize that Su Yunzhou was merely proposing a concept for goblin eradication. Gosha conceded that this notion was remarkably ingenious. However, the development of such a toxin would likely require considerable time and effort, and he was uncertain if he could truly bring it to fruition. Su Yunzhou nodded slowly. "In fact, I possess the ability to impregnate those goblins." Gosha's eyes widened in astonishment. "What? But goblins lack females. How can you make them pregnant?" Gosha, unusually flustered, struggled to articulate his thoughts. The reproductive nature of goblins hinges upon the abduction of females from other races, primarily because their own kind is devoid of females. Regardless of the species, any female defiled by them will only bear goblins, a consequence of their potent genetic traits, which need no further elaboration. Instead of directly addressing Gu Sha's bewilderment, Su Yunzhou posed a counter-question. "Do you possess a map?" "A map of this dungeon?" Gu Sha nodded. "I do." "Then where shall we proceed next?" Gu Sha retrieved the map, contemplated for a moment, and pointed to the next location marked on it. "The prison. It's the place where captives are held." Su Yunzhou commanded Hakimi, "Clear the path." With 99 lives guaranteed, Hakimi felt no trepidation over ambushes. Even if it encountered lethal traps, it would only face death once. As for control-type traps, most would have little effect on the Xian cat, whose unique ability is Effect 4. Wings of a cat. Passive, grants flight capability. Active, consumes one life. Dashes forward, ignoring all physical collisions, and remains invulnerable during the dash. This skill cannot be used for long-distance movement. It is more akin to a blink, with adjustable distance and a speed that is not instantaneous but rapid. Even if ensnared by traps, the Xian cat could effortlessly escape. Thus, Su Yunzhou resolved. As long as the Xian cat remained unharmed, it could take risks without hesitation. At that moment, Hakimi, with its glossy black fur and a beautifully pure white wing adorning its back, resembled a divine beast, walking a few meters ahead of the two. Su Yunzhou lagged behind Gu Sha, following Hakimi. "You are quite formidable." "Thank you." Gu Sha expressed his gratitude with a nod towards Su Yunzhou. Su Yunzhou smiled gently. "It is nothing. I too intend to cleanse this dungeon of goblins." His words clearly indicated their shared objective, now allies united on the same front. However, Su Yunzhou inquired, "With your combat prowess, it seems unlikely that you would be surrounded by goblins, right? I observed earlier that you appear to be under some illusion." Gu Sha's expression grew increasingly serious beneath his armor as he spoke of this matter. "Indeed, I was deceived." He then recounted to Su Yunzhou the encounter he had with the god of lust at the tavern, succinctly summarizing the events in just 2 to 3 minutes. It appeared that the goblin deity had conspired with the god of lust to ensnare him. This deduction is remarkably straightforward. The chaos-inducing liquor is of an extraordinarily high caliber. Were it not for the involvement of goblins, it would merely be the lustful deity administering a potion to Gosha. At this moment, Gosha is unlikely to extricate himself from the ensuing hallucinations and has probably succumbed to the goblins. Gosha then proclaimed, "If you assist me in clearing this goblin dungeon, I shall reward you with a blue treasure chest." Su Yunzhou nodded in acknowledgement, neither confirming nor denying the proposition. Gosha is not of the same caliber as someone like Zhuxiai. The blue treasure chest is likely the finest reward he can offer. Soon, the two arrived at the prison, where numerous scantily clad women were held captive. Humans, elves, mermaids, trolls, half-orcs, and more. The first to notice Su Yunzhou and Gosha were a group of well-equipped goblin guards, each standing approximately 5 feet tall, which is quite robust for goblins. Humans? What are humans doing here? The leading goblin captain narrowed his eyes and immediately commanded an assault. However, This band of goblins could not withstand even the advance of Hakimi, who dispatched them with mere swipes of his claws. Monsters, a colossal feline creature. Quickly, alert the warden. Maintain formation, do not scatter. The panicked goblins only served to exacerbate the chaos. In such disarray, these numerous goblins posed little threat to Su Yunzhao, who refrained from engaging. Gosha, however, charged forward with his sword, beheading the fleeing goblins one by one. Su Yunzhao approached the captain's corpse and retrieved a long string of keys. He gazed at the captives, many of whom had lost all glimmer of hope, resembling mere shells of their former selves. Yet a small fraction, upon seeing Su Yunzhao, cried out in exhilaration, "Save us! Release us! We will offer anything you desire. My family possesses vast wealth. Please let us go." "Thank you." Su Yunzhao commenced unlocking the cells, yet soon realized this method was ineffectively laborious. Thus, he drew forth a sealing blade and severed the locks of each prison door with precision. "Run now," he exhorted with a gentle sigh. Chapter 113. The Scourge of Cockroaches. Warden, trouble is at hand. The warden, a robust figure, wielded a spiked club as his weapon. In his arms, he cradled two females, while one knelt beneath his desk. He was clearly reveling in his indulgences, disrupted in his revelry. The warden exhibited signs of displeasure. What is the commotion? Is the human army attacking? A goblin, terror etched across its features, responded, "It is the goblin slayer. He has breached our defenses." This goblin was one of those who had fled back, its face a portrait of sheer panic. The warden immediately furrowed his brow in concern. "It is impossible. I have received a divine oracle. The goblin slayer is ensnared in an illusion, rendered utterly powerless. There could be no errors." At this point, the warden, filled with exasperation, lamented the incompetence of his minions, a band of inept fools, unable to subdue a goblin slayer already under the effects of spell. "It appears I must take matters into my own hands." The warden harbored no doubts about the goblin slayer's combat capabilities. The deity had issued a direct decree, and that man was merely destined for demise. He had believed that dispatching several hundred elite goblins would ensure an easy victory. Yet he was met with utter defeat as the goblin slayer decimated his forces. Even now, the warden remained confident, for his remarkable talents marked him as the apex of goblins. Although he had heard tales of the goblin slayer's legendary prowess since childhood, he could not fathom that this human possessed any real strength. Merely a common human, one who preyed upon the weak goblins. "Stand aside and allow me to deal with him." The warden forcefully shoved aside three female goblins, seizing his spiked mace, ready to exit his office. Suddenly, he noticed the goblin who had just reported to him. Its abdomen began to swell, expanding increasingly. "What is the matter with your belly?" No sooner had the warden uttered this question than the goblin's belly ruptured, releasing 4 or 5 oversized cockroaches, each the size of a palm. These cockroaches, with their glossy black shells and 6 spiny legs smeared with filth, frantically waved their antennae, while their compound eyes glimmered with a murky gray hue. At this moment, the creatures fixated intently on the very mother that had birthed them. A grotesque, crunching sound echoed as the freshly ruptured goblin was mercilessly devoured by these cockroaches, its form rendered unrecognizable amidst the carnage. A jolt of alarm surged through the warden, who swiftly swung his mace to strike at the cockroaches. Instantly, their bodies detonated, spewing forth a vile mixture of yellow and white ichor like bursting water balloons. Fortunately, the goblin race was notably resistant to such repulsive scenes. The warden furrowed his brow and dashed from his office. Indeed, chaos reigned outside, as the nerve center of the goblin dungeon. This area housed not only the warden's office, but also the nursery for goblin younglings, the medical room, and resting quarters. Thus, the goblins present were either injured juvenile, or still in slumber. Those returning in haste bore swollen abdomens, as though several months pregnant, their bellies pulsating ominously. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of rupturing bellies resonated, followed by the unsettling vibrations of insect wings. Even the goblin warden felt a tremor of fear. He was afraid. An indescribable dread clawed at his heart, urging him to flee at once. Yet, the warden was inherently proud. "Do not panic. These insects lack combat prowess. Let us eliminate them together." The warden bellowed fiercely, charging forth and delivering a sweeping blow with his mace against the swarm of cockroaches. Instantly, a dozen of the creatures were obliterated, their yellowish-white innards exploding into the air, releasing a foul stench that even the goblins found repugnant. However, countless more cockroaches continued to surge forth from the bellies of the goblins, which would first consume their progenitors before turning to devour their fellow goblins. These progenitor cockroaches, already grievously wounded and with ruptured abdomens, stood no chance of resistance and were swiftly devoured. The remaining goblins could fend off a few cockroaches, yet when dozens of them descended upon a single goblin, resistance became futile. It was akin to a locust swarm, leaving nothing but carnage in its wake. "Fear not, though these creatures appear numerous, we can vanquish them," shouted Su Yunju, who had released around 60 goblins. The total number of cockroaches birthed by these goblins barely reached 300, a figure that seemed relatively insignificant compared to the total goblin population within the dungeon. Yet, one must recognize that this was the heart of the goblin lair, an area deemed absolutely secure, designated for rest, medical care, and the nurturing of young. In such a sanctuary, the sudden emergence of 300 fearless insects, even if only the size of a palm, was enough to extinguish the goblin's fighting spirit. "Don't flee. Stand your ground," the warden commanded, his voice echoing in the chaos. When the swarm focused its assault on one goblin, the others could retaliate, easily dispatching a dozen cockroaches. With a modest sacrifice, the swarm could be subdued. Yet the dilemma remained. Who would be the martyr? The goblins lacked the unwavering resolve to face death. They were cunning, greedy, and above all, terrified. They witnessed their brethren being gruesomely devoured by the cockroaches, transforming into grotesque, bloody remains, and the dread spread like wildfire. Observing the bedlam among the goblins and the relentless feeding frenzy of the cockroaches, the warden felt fear seize him. He made a decision that betrayed his ancestors. He dashed back to his office, casting out the 3 females within by time. He slammed the door shut, barricading it with various objects to ensure the swarm could not enter. "They cannot get in. They shall not breach this sanctum," he gasped, desperation creeping into his voice. "I cannot die here. I have a promising future ahead of me." Racing to his desk, he retrieved a unique stone and smeared it with his blood. Requesting assistance. Requesting assistance. The goblin dungeon is under attack. Hundreds of insects, emerging from their bellies. "Hurry, we need support." "Damn it, you lot. Always shirking responsibility. Scoundrels. Have you all forgotten the oracle of the goblin god? What is this goblin slayer nonsense? Are you truly so fearful of him? By the gods." The swarm of cockroaches ravaged for merely 10 minutes. After this brief span, the colossal insects completely lost their vitality, their bodies rapidly decomposing and disintegrating. The essence of the desecration card lies in usurping divine power, accomplishing what even the mother goddess cannot, a feat that Su Yunzhou finds exceedingly challenging. If she could continually breed cockroaches through such means, the entire virtual realm would have long since become a haven for them. Their formidable reproductive capabilities are overshadowed by their tragically short lifespans. Chapter 114. The photo of the enchanting beauty. What on earth has transpired here? Goblin Slayer stared in astonishment at the scene before him. In the core area of the goblins, the cockroaches had already metamorphosed and vanished without a trace. What remained were countless goblin remains. These corpses were grotesque, as if a butcher with no skill had relentlessly skinned them, exposing dark green flesh that crumbled into fragments at the slightest breeze. Such a sight was utterly appalling. Su Yunzhou marveled at the gruesome display, yet felt no surprise. Piecing together his earlier words, Goblin Slayer deduced that this horrific scene was orchestrated by Su Yunzhou. This human is terrifyingly formidable. He believed himself sufficiently cruel to the goblins, only to discover that there were even greater masters at work. Su Yunzhou, stroking his chin, remarked, "It seems this skill proves quite effective." He then pointed to a nearby location. "Look there. Is that not the warden's office depicted on the map?" Although Lust had bestowed upon Goblin Slayer the potion of chaos, the map she provided was indeed authentic. After all, the highest form of deceit is to mix truth with falsehood. In terms of outcomes, Lust had indeed misled Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer grasped his long sword firmly. "Brother Su Yunzhou, I shall enter and deal with that fellow. You remain outside." Without a moment's hesitation, Su Yunzhou nodded in agreement. However, Goblin Slayer added, "Rest assured, I will only eliminate the warden. I shall not disturb anything within the office." This lad is quite astute. From this, it is clear that Goblin Slayer possesses a degree of emotional intelligence. He understands that Su Yunzhou, unlike him, is driven by revenge against the goblins for a different purpose. Su Yunzhou surely seeks some form of benefit. And within the entire dungeon, if there is anyone possessing the finest treasures, it must be the warden. Su Yunzhou continued to nod in response, maintaining his silence. Subsequently, Goblin Slayer approached the office door. With a powerful kick, he struck it. Bang! The force was tremendous. Yet the door did not yield. It appeared to be blocked by a heavy object. Goblin Slayer furrowed his brow and swiftly produced a blasting scroll. The area of the anti-magic circle existed solely within the Goblin cafeteria. Here, there were no such restrictions. Thus, Goblin Slayer pressed the blasting scroll against the door. With a thunderous explosion, the door was completely blown apart, flames raging as several fiery serpents burst forth, their crimson glow blinding. A chorus of agonized wails echoed within the office. Su Yunzhou then observed Gusha retrieving several verdant mushrooms. Puzzled, he wondered what the mushrooms were for. Gusha tossed them onto the ground. Moments later, a burly goblin, rushing out from the office, stepped upon the mushrooms. Its already greenish skin transformed into an inky shade of dark green. To draw a comparison, one might liken it to the paralysis ring effect from certain advertisement. The goblin warden's skin, while charred slightly from the explosion, remained unscathed. Yet, upon stepping on the mushrooms, a peculiar viscous liquid swiftly spread across its green skin, gradually corroding its body. This corrosion was subtle, but undeniably poisoned the goblin warden. Su Yunzhou was taken aback by the myriad of Gusha's tactics against goblins. The warden, already no match for Gusha, found itself even more outmatched now. Attempting to flee, the warden was hindered by the toxic mushrooms beneath its feet, which inflicted the most severe poisoning. Blisters rapidly formed on its soles, causing pain with each step. If the blisters remained intact, the agony persisted. If they burst, the pain would become excruciating. This toxin was potent enough to affect a boss-level entity, requiring neither ingestion nor inhalation. Mere skin contact sufficed, demonstrating its formidable efficacy. However, it bore a limitation. The mushroom toxin only affected goblinkind. Clearly, these mushrooms were concocted by a certain dwarf at Gusha's behest. Unable to fight back or escape, the warden ultimately met its demise when Gusha pierced its neck with a blade, severing its head. After confirming the warden's demise, Gusha nodded at Su Yunzhou. I shall not enter. All that lies within belongs to you. I intend to pursue the fleeing goblins elsewhere. Very well, Su Yunzhou acknowledged. Suddenly, Gusha recalled something and produced a blue treasure chest. You have aided me greatly. This is your rightful reward. With that, Gusha truly turned it apart. Su Yunzhou glanced at the little black cat, both locking eyes in silent communication. What are you staring at? Go inside and scout ahead. Meow. The black cat flicked its tail and ventured into the office. After a thorough inspection, it found no traps or ambushes. Meow. Safe. Subsequently, Su Yunzhou stepped inside. The office was exquisitely furnished. Despite the recent explosion, its charm remained evident. The warden certainly knew how to indulge. Prominently displayed on the desk was a blue treasure chest, which Su Yunzhou promptly claimed before continuing to search the room. He meticulously examined the cabinets, desks, and even beneath the sofa. Some exquisite, undamaged furniture was also collected by him into the grand backpack, boasting a capacity of 500. Su Yunzhou could only express his delight as a scavenger. Suddenly, he discovered a photograph nestled within a drawer. Encased in a beautifully ornate frame, it was remarkably well preserved. For a creature like a goblin, the preservation of such a pristine item was almost unfathomable. Instinctively, Su Yunzhou's gaze shifted towards the figure captured in the photograph. A beauty, an absolute embodiment of elegance. Ethereal and transcendent, she resembled a celestial being, existing apart from the world. Oh no, this is the sensation of love. Su Yunzhou's heart raced, his pulse skyrocketing beyond 200 beats per minute. He yearned for this woman, desiring her with an intensity that defied all reason. A sharp crack echoed, sending a jolt of panic through Su Yunzhou. Goodness. He hastily placed the photograph face down on the table, averting his gaze. What kind of dark sorcery is this? The thought of marrying her and sacrificing everything for her was utterly terrifying. At that moment, the black butterfly mask appeared, adhering to Su Yunzhou's face. A fissure stretched from the upper left corner of the mask to the lower right, signaling its fracture. Black Butterfly Mask, Effect 1. Capable of withstanding any frontal attack to the face, if the attack's intensity exceeds the equipment's defense. It will nullify the damage and sustain damage itself. This equipment not only defends against physical attacks, but also shields against mental ones. The majority of mental assaults target the head, thus it offers protection. Clearly, the photograph's power was so formidable that it shattered the Black Butterfly Mask. Chapter 115. The God of Accumulated Beauty, what now? Should he take the photograph? He sensed that this image was extraordinary, warranting further investigation. However, the concern lay in the fact that the Black Butterfly Mask was now destroyed. If he were to accidentally glimpse the photograph again, it could spell his doom. Yet, this object was akin to an unpredictable landmine. As long as he retained his sight, there was always the possibility of encountering this photograph again. What then? It was crucial to note that the Black Butterfly Mask was already in ruins. Su Yunzhou was certainly prepared to replace the damaged Black Butterfly Mask. Yet, should he encounter this photograph again, he would still be ill-equipped to handle it. This photograph must be taken. I must bring it back for further examination. If necessary, I could summon Lilith through Fina. Until this matter is resolved, my heart shall remain unsettled. At this moment, Su Yunzhou harbored thoughts of vengeance towards the woman in the photograph, or rather, the individual who crafted this image. How malicious! Just then, Su Yunzhou noticed Hakimi standing nearby. He evidently noticed the photograph, yet displayed no reaction. It should have no effect on inanimate objects, and, theoretically, none on women either. Su Yunzhou speculated as he walked out of the office, choosing not to continue his search, but rather to exit the goblin dungeon directly. At that moment, he spotted Gusha returning. Clad in armor, Gusha was smeared with increasingly thick blood, emanating a pungent stench. Fortunately, you haven't left, Su Yunzhou inquired. Gusha pointed in a direction. I have discovered the warehouse of this dungeon. It contains numerous treasures of gold and silver, and even a barrel of diamonds, along with several hundred units of Tier 3 resources that I believe will be of use to you. Hearing this, Su Yunzhao's expression brightened slightly. Indeed, due to the effect of ruling the throne, the stations he visited were the finest. If his haul at any station was meager, it was undoubtedly due to his lack of thorough exploration. With a call, a mechanical dog promptly leaped forth. Woof woof. An electronic synthesized voice echoed. Wang Kai. Ready for action. Su Yunzhou commanded. Wang Kai. Transport mode. Woof woof. Wang Kai's demeanor shifted to one of seriousness. Subsequently, its body tensed, gears clicking at the joints, as the streamlined mechanical shell unfurled to the sides. At the same time, the mechanical module on its back folded and assembled, swiftly forming a metallic cart, with a metal rope automatically fastening to either side of the dog. Moreover, from its sides, akin to a spider, it extended 4 pairs of slender mechanical arms. Had he not witnessed it firsthand, Gusha would have found it hard to believe that a medium-sized dog could transform to such an impressive scale. At this moment, Wang Kai's dimensions were comparable to a long, extended vehicle. Automatic transport mode, cargo location confirmed. The mechanical dog appeared to detect the location of the warehouse and began to move towards it. Originally evolved from a treasure-hunting dog, it easily sensed the treasures emanating from that place once given a clear direction. Wang Kai's electronic sense of smell was quite acute. Gusha stood in astonishment, speechless. Su Yunzhou remarked, I shall entrust the task of transporting those items to it. I'm heading back to the train until we meet again. Gusha nodded solemnly. Until we meet again. Upon exiting the goblin dungeon, Su Yunzhou beheld the train. Fina was already perched at the window, her eyes filled with anticipation. Boss! Boss! How did you return so quickly? Su Yunzhou did not respond, but rather inquired, Are there any enemies approaching the train? Fina shook her head. Only a handful of goblins, panicking as they fled from the cave, all of whom were slain by the Shining Blade Angel. This outcome did not surprise Su Yunzhou. He nodded calmly and promptly issued another command. Fina prepared the ritual to summon Lilith. The young girl, sensing the gravity of the situation on her divine guardian's face, understood that this matter could not be delayed and hurriedly set about her task. It must be acknowledged that Fina possessed an extraordinary talent for summoning dark deities. The intricate summoning array that Su Yunzhou had pondered over for an extended time was effortlessly mastered by Fina in just a few hours. Now, she was capable of summoning dark gods on her own. After a melodic incantation, the magnificent, wise, and enchanting demon lord, Lilith, appeared once more, her expression tinged with resignation. In truth, she could have chosen not to respond to the summons. After all, if she were to heed every invocation, she would find herself perpetually traversing the globe without respite. However, there was a pressing issue. The aura emanating from Fina made Lilith hesitant to decline the summoning. For reasons unknown, she sensed a distinct energy element emanating from Fina, one that was unmistakably linked to the Lord of all demons. This being was the sovereign of the entire demon realm, the superior of Lilith's superior. Thus, even the slightest trace of this imperceptible energy could not be ignored by Lilith. On another note, though she held no fondness for Su Yunzhou, she found herself inexplicably drawn to the young girl, Fina. "Sigh, what is it now, human?" Lilith sat upon a chair, her petite, pale feet dangling in the air due to her height, and instinctively began to sway them. Su Yunzhou gulped nervously before addressing the matter at hand. "Lady Lilith, you must save me." "No," Lilith decisively rejected. "Using power and desolation will only taint me, even within a train. Do not lead me to ruin." Su Yunzhou quickly countered. "Lilith, you have misunderstood. As a wise succubus, why would I desire your power? I seek your wisdom." "Oh," Lilith smirked alluringly. "So you wish to exploit my astonishing wisdom? How amusing, human." After contemplating for a moment, the demon priestess nodded. "What is it that you wish to know?" "I shall answer you 3 questions once more." Su Yunzhou retrieved a photograph from his backpack, cautiously presenting it to Lilith, ensuring it was facing away from himself. "Lilith, please take a look at this." Immediately, Lilith frowned. "This is the ability of the Fate card," she concluded, "and it pertains to the authority of the goddess of beauty." Su Yunzhou's eyes widened in surprise. "Wait, what goddess?" Lilith narrowed her eyes. "The goddess of beauty. Is there a problem?" Su Yunzhou carefully considered his words. "This goddess of beauty, what does she mean? I mean, could you translate that?" "The deity who gathers beauty from all corners of the world. That is the full title," Lilith explained without any sense of concern, as the communication barrier between her and Su Yunzhou was bridged. The only reason they could converse normally was due to the train's real-time translation feature, an exceptionally powerful tool capable of conveying the original meanings with remarkable accuracy. However, it is evident that translation fails to capture the nuances of homophonic puns. Even though Lilith is indeed erudite and somewhat familiar with many internet terminologies for Blue Star, she remains utterly perplexed by what Su Yunzhou finds so strange. Chapter 116, The Two Great Laws. Su Yunzhou has managed to comprehend the situation. It appears that perhaps it could simply be a case of coincidental phonetic similarity, devoid of any intent to mock a specific group. Well then, pray tell, what prowess does this divine fate card of the goddess of accumulation possess? Why is it so formidable that merely gazing upon it could lead to an explosion? This is utterly absurd. Lilith shook her head and clarified. It is not as formidable as it seems. This artifact only affects those who have an affinity for human females. If you show it to Fina or that black cat, it will have no effect whatsoever. As she spoke, Lilith presented the photograph to Hakimi and Fina, and indeed, neither fell victim to its mental influence. Fina merely exclaimed how beautiful it was, a typical reaction upon encountering an unparalleled beauty. In contrast, Hakimi displayed no reaction at all, as its sense of aesthetics is not human. Lilith continued, "Moreover, this ability only ensnares those who still harbor hopes for love." She squinted at Su Yunzhou. "You too are indulging in fantasies of sweet romance, are you not? You surely know how you treat Fina." Su Yunzhou promptly interjected, "I am not. I do not." However, Fina, blushing and looking downward, admitted, "In truth, being the master's companion is quite delightful." Although she could express herself freely when alone with Su Yunzhou, discussing such matters in front of others made her slightly bashful. Lilith regarded Fina with a mix of exasperation and disappointment. Foolish woman, by indulging him like this, he will undoubtedly seek several wives in the future. Men are inherently fickle. Fina quickly reassured, "It's all right. I can handle it." She poked her fingers together. "Though I may feel a twinge of jealousy, I will accept whatever choice the master makes." Su Yunzhou hastily redirected the conversation. Stop. Stop. I did not summon you to discuss this. You must tell me how to deal with this photograph. What if I encounter it again and fall victim? Am I truly destined to become a lovesick fool?" Lilith smirked mischievously. "A man like you, whose mind is filled with such lewd thoughts, deserves to become a lovesick fool. As a pure love succubus, Lilith naturally harbored disdain for Su Yunzhou. Yet, she had a fondness for Fina, which is why she had boarded this train. In a moment of unrestrained desperation, Su Yunzhou knelt and embraced Lilith's exquisitely beautiful black silk-clad leg, pleading, "I implore you, dear sir, rescue me. Should you remain silent, it would be tantamount to endangering my very life." Lilith, clad in her simple black bodycon dress and black stockings, felt a jolt as Su Yunzhou clutched her leg. Nevertheless, as a wise succubus, she maintained a demeanor of composure. She removed her shoes and unleashed a series of 5 swift kicks upon Su Yunzhou's head, each strike accompanied by sparks of fire and flashes of lightning. "Monster! Scum! Trash! Beast! D." Fina observed the scene and remarked, "Milady Lilith, this is hardly a punishment." Upon hearing this, Lilith's fury intensified. How infuriating! This is maddening. It appeared that Lilith possessed a trace of Germanic heritage, as she suddenly exclaimed a phrase in German. Subsequently, she delivered a kick to Su Yunzhou's chin, sending him sprawling. Perverse lowly enthusiast, am I not allowed to assist you? Despite her anger, Lilith recognized that if she did not intervene, Su Yunzhou would remain in this state indefinitely. While I could directly instruct you on how to cope, as a wise succubus, I must elucidate the underlying principles. Lilith descended from her chair, donned a pair of charmingly petite glasses, and conjured a small, freestanding blackboard. "Welcome to Lilith's class. Your instructor has arrived." On the blackboard, she inscribed 2 phrases: "The principles of Liang Carthage" and "The principles of Liang Maichong." The fateful cards of the goddess of accumulated beauty derive their 2 most crucial abilities from these principles. With a pointer in hand, Lilith gestured towards the board. The principles of Liang Carthage exploit the psychology of gamblers, leading them to believe that by wagering everything, they can win the favor of a beautiful woman. In reality, such individuals end up being utterly drained of their resources. If the man retains any value, he will be subject to continuous exploitation. If not, he will be unceremoniously cast aside. Fina's eyes widened with trepidation. This fellow is terrifying. He's practically a vampire. Lilith frowned. "If you have queries during the lesson, please raise your hand." Fina promptly nodded and sealed her lips. Lilith then shifted her pointer to the other principle. The principles of Liang Maichong compel individuals to provide continuous output, fulfilling every request to the best of their abilities. They offer a modicum of resources, receiving trivial rewards in return. Further offerings yield even more rewards. Should they cease their contributions, they will be neglected for a time as punishment. It resembles training a dog. A combination of sweet rewards and stern measures swiftly cultivates a puppet capable of consistent value output. Lilith continued, "However, both principles hinge upon a singular factor, the allure of the goddess of accumulated beauty. Those possessing the fateful card of beauty are bound to possess rare and breathtaking beauty, unparalleled and captivating. A mere hint of enchanting magic can render men like you utterly entranced." Su Yunzhou raised his hand. "How can I become immune to such enchanting spells?" Lilith raised 3 fingers. "There are 4 methods. The first and most direct is that if your mental fortitude is sufficiently robust, you can naturally resist enchantment." Su Yunzhou shook his head. "I'm afraid that's impossible. Even under the protection of the black butterfly mask, I couldn't withstand it. Without the mask now, it is even less feasible." Lilith evidently discerned that this approach would prove ineffective, and thus continued, "Secondly, I shall render you incapable of believing in love." Su Yunzhou furrowed his brow. What must be done? Lilith presented him with a book. It bore no cover, yet as Su Yunzhou perused the table of contents, he found a plethora of entries. Paternity tests reveal that the children share no blood relation, discovering a partner's inappropriate connections with others, uncovering disloyalty in a partner prior to marriage. Upon turning a page, he encountered a series of first-person short stories. Each narrative bore a striking resemblance to the others. They began with descriptions of profound affection and happiness, only to abruptly reveal a wife's hidden secrets. Lilith scoffed. "There are a total of 69 tales. Upon finishing them, you should no longer believe in love. If that is insufficient, I possess 10 more volumes, each unique." Chapter 117. The Exercise of Disillusionment. Su Yunzhou clicked his tongue. "Lilith, to carry such material with you, can you truly call yourself a pure love demon? You embody the essence of a seductress. After skimming through 2 or 3 stories, he found himself unable to continue. The emotional torment was overwhelming. The first-person perspective and the straightforward, authentic language made it all too easy for Su Yunzhou to empathize with the protagonist's plight. Should he read them all, he feared he might genuinely lose hope in love. Yet Lilith merely chuckled coldly. True purity in love lies in maintaining one's essence after witnessing various betrayals, resolutely refusing to become that sort of person. Su Yunzhou was left speechless. However, Fina suddenly emerged, snatching the book and throwing it back. No, the master must not read this. If the master loses faith in love, what shall become of me? Fina felt as though Lilith was persuading their master to renounce worldly desires. Could she endure such a fate? Absolutely not. Su Yunzhou shook his head and conceded. Fine, let us hear the third method. Surely there must be a reliable approach? Lilith nodded. Indeed, as biological beings, humanity's inherent drive to seek pleasure and avoid harm can triumph over carnal desires. After all, to lose humanity is to forfeit much. To lose animal instinct is to lose everything. Then what must be done? Lilith replied. Next, I shall show you a photograph. Once you are captivated by that unparalleled beauty, I shall swiftly knock you down. As this process continues, your instinct for survival will eventually awaken a wariness towards the woman in the photograph, rendering her unable to enchant you. Su Yunzhou's eyes widened. Are you not seeking revenge on me? Enough of the chatter, Lilith retorted, producing the photograph and pressing it against Su Yunzhou's face. The visage of the extraordinary beauty once again captivated him, igniting a surge of emotion. This was the sensation of love. He would sacrifice everything for this woman. Suddenly, he was struck sharply in the face, causing him to topple over. He was instantly freed from the enchantment. Must you strike my face? Without a firm lesson, you won't learn, Lilith exclaimed, presenting the photograph to Su Yunzhou once more. As Su Yunzhou's gaze became vacant, akin to a lovesick fool, she delivered another kick, though the petite foot of the girl was unshod. It possessed an elevated prowess far beyond Su Yunzhou's comprehension. Even without resorting to any extraordinary powers, the sheer physical strength was sufficient to leave Su Yunzhou reeling. Fortunately, Lilith had removed her shoes from the outset. Otherwise, Su Yunzhou would undoubtedly bear scars upon his visage. Presently, only the soft sole had made contact with his face, resulting in no apparent wounds. This cycle repeated countless times. Hakimi had retreated to another climate-controlled carriage to slumber, while Fina had also departed to the kitchen to prepare dinner. After yet another iteration, Su Yunzhou once more gazed at the photograph, instinctively extending his hand to shield his eyes. A delicate foot clad in black silk found itself clasped in his grip. Lilith withdrew it, delivering another kick that once more toppled Su Yunzhou. It seemed she had succeeded. He had initially thought it would take a day or two to resolve this matter. A shiver of dread coursed through Su Yunzhou. If you keep kicking me like this for a day or two, I might perish. Lilith scoffed. Without experiencing the terror of death, how can one conquer the art of seduction? This is a matter of divine destiny. Su Yunzhou again focused on the photograph. This time, he was devoid of any sweet, romantic feelings. The image of a petite foot in black silk unconsciously flashed in his mind. Su Yunzhou stiffened, his fists clenched. Damn it. He had endured countless hardships because of the woman in that photograph. He had paid a considerable price. The last encounter had been manageable, but this time, he truly owed Lilith a favor. Moreover, the black butterfly mask had been damaged. Lilith reclined on the sofa, visibly fatigued. I am utterly exhausted. Fina leaned closer. Lady Lilith, would you care to have dinner before you depart? Lilith casually nodded. Then I shall trouble you. After gaining immunity to seduction, Su Yunzhou began to scrutinize the enchanting beauty in the photograph. She was stunning. Indeed, that face was absolutely breathtaking. If she were to be disfigured, she would undoubtedly weep most sorrowfully, he mused with a sinister smile, harboring a tinge of resentment. Lilith remarked, You have now become immune to her allure. Should you encounter her directly, you should be able to defeat her. The combat prowess of Destiny card, beauty, is not formidable and can be easily resolved through physical means. However, be wary. She may be surrounded by a throng of infatuated subordinates, akin to guardians or white knights, which poses a challenge. Su Yunzhou regarded Lilith. Thank you once again. Speak, what reward do you desire? Upon hearing this, Lilith pondered for a moment, revealing a somewhat melancholic smile. In truth, As a pure love succubus, I have long sought my destined partner. Yet, I have searched in vain for centuries. As she spoke, Lilith's gaze fell upon Su Yunzhou, appraising him from head to toe. Su Yunzhou immediately crossed his arms and stepped back. Although you are indeed quite beautiful, aren't you several hundred years old? And a succubus at that. Are you hoping for an old bull to graze on tender grass? Lilith responded with a mocking smile. I merely wish for your assistance in my search. I have divined the secrets of heaven, and it seems to be related to both wood and water. Could you keep an eye out for me? Su Yunzhou's mind raced, quickly connecting several individuals. Water? Qin Ruoshui? Wood? Yi Feng? It appeared there was no one who embodied both elements. Wait, Wu Shuang. Su Yunzhou shook his head. Lilith had clearly stated she was not a Huan. Thus women should be excluded from consideration. He nodded at Lilith. Very well, I shall remain vigilant. At that moment, Fina, who had been bustling in the kitchen, brought forth 4 dishes and a soup. A delicious fish soup without bones, scrambled eggs with peeled tomatoes, stir-fried celery with meat, 3 fresh vegetables, and sweet and sour pork, accompanied by a large pot of white rice. Such was life on the train, simple yet delightful fare. In truth, Fina had spent the entire day preparing these dishes. She understood that each stop was a life-and-death challenge for Su Yunzhou, and thus she would commence her preparations for a sumptuous meal as soon as they docked. What do busy individuals yearn for most upon returning home after a long day? The answer: a meal, a bath, and some relaxation. If relaxation is unattainable, there's always 0721. The 3 gathered around the dining table, savoring the delicious food. The dishes were quite appetizing, and Su Yunzhou ate with great satisfaction. In contrast, Lilith showed little interest in the food, yet she was thoroughly pleased with the ambience, even expressing contentment. Delicious. Fina is truly remarkable, Lilith praised. Hee. Hakimi scampered to Su Yunzhou's pant leg and plopped down with a thud. You've already consumed so much cat food, and yet you still want to eat? As he spoke, he picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork and tossed it to Hakimi, who leaped and caught it in midair. Fina, with a serious demeanor, cautioned, Boss, cats have different digestive systems from humans. They shouldn't consume too many seasonings. Su Yunzhou shrugged nonchalantly. It's fine. If it kills him, it's no problem. He has 99 lives. Chapter 118. Wu Shuang Station. Wu Shuang awoke from her soft bed, still clutching a sword. The beauty in her arms was exquisite, and the sword was of fine quality. Yet, the beauty appeared somewhat dazed. Wu Shuang first practiced a segment of swordplay within the carriage before proceeding to wash up and have breakfast. Her current life could indeed be deemed pleasant, reminiscent of her days practicing swordsmanship on a mountain. Her elderly master, with graying hair and beard, would prepare delicious meals, buy her clothes, teach her to read and write, and instruct her in sword techniques. Her master once remarked that once she mastered unparalleled swordsmanship, she could descend the mountain to become a close confidant of the campus heartthrob. From then on, she would embrace handsome men, soar to great heights, showcase her skills, traverse the world, leaving behind an immortal legend in the city. However, she had no desire to become the close aide of some campus heartthrob. She struggled to articulate her thoughts fluently. Upon descending the mountain, everyone perceived her as somewhat simple-minded. Moreover, she was required to fend for herself when it came to meals, procure her own clothing, and even find her own place to sleep. Initially, she spent her nights in a park, where she encountered 2 inebriated men who sought to assault her. She adhered closely to her master's teachings. Her master had cautioned her that if anyone attempted to bully her, she must resist with all her might. That night, the park bore witness to 2 headless corpses, with their corresponding heads discovered in a nearby drain. Wu Shuang was effortlessly located by the police, just as she was on the verge of attacking an officer. A flash of white light enveloped her. She then found herself aboard a train. In this new realm, she possessed nothing but the clothes on her back and the sword that had accompanied her since childhood. Once again, she had to devise a way to meet her basic needs. Fortunately, a benevolent soul named Su Yunzhou appeared. Su Yunzhou was undoubtedly a paragon of kindness. Wu Shuang needed only to hand over all the items she acquired at the station, and Su Yunzhou would provide her with food, clothing, and other essential supplies. Even the temperature-controlled carriage was a gift from Su Yunzhou. All it took was her offering him 20 energy crystals for such a precious treasure. Indeed, Su Yunzhou was exceedingly generous. As the train pulled into the next station, Wu Shuang resolved to strive diligently today. Brother Su, I cannot disappoint you. The girl, with her fair and delicate visage, gripped her sword tightly as she disembarked. This station's mission, to eliminate bandits. It was a dual train station, with another train parked right beside Wu Shuang's. From it emerged another girl. However, this young lady exuded a different aura. With her twin ponytails of golden hair and a petite frame that was anything but ordinary, she bore a somewhat haughty demeanor, yet maintained politeness in her interactions. Given that this station was explicitly designated for cooperation, attacks among teammates were prohibited. Thus, Yilioli approached confidently and introduced herself, saying, I am Yilioli. What is your name? Wu Shuang fixed her gaze directly into Yilioli's eyes. The intensity of her stare caused Yilioli's hair to stand on end, prompting her to instinctively take a step back and avert her gaze. Why do you keep staring at me? After observing her, Wu Shuang nodded and replied, You seem to be a good person. To shield Wu Shuang from being manipulated by ill-intentioned individuals, Su Yunzhao exerted considerable effort. He subsequently procured an E-rank skill from the skill Merchant Qin, Ruoshui. Skill book, 1 glance truth 1 type, skill card skill level, D-rank skill description, an identification skill that requires eye contact to activate. Usable on targets no more than 10 levels above oneself, allowing for a basic assessment of the target's evil and benevolence indices. Note, these indices are determined by the subject's actual deeds, independent of their psychological state. Look me in the eye, you scoundrel. After acquiring this skill, Wu Shuang adeptly navigated crowded transport hubs. With a high index of malevolence, she remained vigilant. Should the adversary show any sign of deviation, she would promptly eliminate them. In the case of cooperative teams, she would maintain a safe distance, refraining from unnecessary discourse. Conversely, if the individuals exhibited a high index of benevolence, collaboration was permissible. However, Su Yunzhou advised her to observe these individuals carefully before making any decisions. It was imperative to avoid close proximity to boys and unattractive girls. While beautiful girls were an exception, Su Yunzhou, though regarding Wu Shuang as a sister, had no desire to suddenly find himself with a brother-in-law. He simply could not abide that. Naturally, Wu Shuang was exceedingly obedient. If Su Yunzhou said no, then no it was. Beautiful girls? Yes, indeed. Shall we go together? Wu Shuang timidly extended the invitation. Yilioli observed the somewhat dazed girl. Though peculiar, her essence seemed inherently good. Thus, she acquiesced. Then let us walk together. This station was named Bandit Stronghold Station, with a riddle difficulty comparable to that of Dora. On their journey, Wu Shuang and Yi Liuli encounter a map, revealing a direct route leading to the stronghold. The bandits numbered a few hundred, approximately 250 of whom were combatants. They claimed the mountain as their domain, robbing merchant caravans below and occasionally abducting women, living relatively well. Within the encampment, an excited minion rushed in, exclaiming, Boss, 2 women have come to us of their own accord. The burly leader's eyes sparkled at the prospect. Could it be that they're the wives or children of the brothers here? The minion quickly dismissed this notion. No, absolutely not. These 2 are stunningly beautiful. Not ordinary women at all. They are undoubtedly ladies of high standing. Their attire is bizarre, clearly not that of commoners. Upon hearing this, the leader's eyes gleamed with excitement. Such women, whether to be kept as wives or held for ransom, would be a tremendous gain. He immediately directed a stout, slightly shorter man beside him, second in command. Gather 30 men and capture these 2 girls alive. Ensure they remain unharmed. The second in command, despite his rugged appearance, was meticulous and nodded. Rest assured, boss, I shall return promptly. Half an hour later, a battered minion dashed back, wailing, Boss, the gates have been breached. Those 2 women are monsters. The second in command is dead. We must flee. The leader, incredulous, rose to his feet. Impossible, absolutely impossible. 2 young girls? How could that be? He rushed out in haste, and before he could finish his words, he was confronted with a scene that filled him with dread. 4 or 5 bizarre, humanoid creatures wreaked havoc within the camp, sparing the women and elderly while targeting the rebellious bandits. These summoned beasts were none other than Yi Lioli's dark, anthropomorphic Pokemon, exceedingly unique in design, capable of shattering childhood innocence. The kind that might not even pass scrutiny on the dark web. Chapter 119. The sword enthusiast Wu Shuang. Meanwhile, a sword-wielding maiden stood proudly amidst a sea of blood and corpses. The surrounding bandits lay fallen, strewn across the ground. Dressed in white, Wu Shuang remained untouched by a single drop of blood, resembling a pristine white lotus, emerging from the mire, yet unsullied. She then adopted a classic sword stance, her left foot stepping forward while her right knee was raised to guard. With her right arm elevated, the sword's hilt pointed skyward, while the tip faced downward, resting against her right shoulder like a sheathed blade. A white arc pierced the sun. This move was not one Wu Shuang had learned from skill card. Rather, it was an innate ability she acquired naturally upon boarding the train. Much like certain sharpshooters who come equipped with firearm mastery, Wu Shuang had a similar innate talent. The sword's shadow danced like a tempest, unleashing a white flash that severed the heads of all bandits standing in her way. In the air, riding atop her Pokemon, Yuli remained vigilant, closely monitoring the battlefield below. She vocally commanded the Pokemon engaged in combat, simultaneously directing Wu Shuang. Wu Shuang, that one is the bandit leader. Yuli's keen gaze quickly identified the heavily surrounded chief, and she pointed him out to Wu Shuang, who comprehended the instruction instantly. In an instant, the white figure darted forward like lightning, swiftly delivering a lethal thrust toward the chief. How could this be? The plea for mercy barely escaped his lips before the sword's radiance pierced his neck, severing his head, which spun through the air before crashing to the ground. Yuli, suspended above, witnessed the entire scene, her eyes filled with envy. How magnificent! This is true combat. I, hiding behind summoned beasts, feel somewhat inadequate. She sighed in resignation. With the chief's demise, the remaining minions lost all will to resist. Some fled in panic while others knelt in surrender. Wu Shuang was uncertain how to handle the bandits. Traditionally, she would assess their morality, sparing the less wicked while executing the utterly vile. However, this method proved to be exceedingly inefficient. Descending from the air, Yuli's thoughts were evidently more pragmatic than Wu Shuang's. Do not slay them just yet. They still hold value. Yuli promptly dismounted her Pokemon and directed the surrendering bandits to begin looting and transporting the supplies within the camp. Bring everything out. I shall set this encampment ablaze. So do not even think of hiding anything within. Yuli addressed the neatly organized bandits, instructing them to bring forth the supplies. Whoever carries the most, I shall reward with a share of silver. Even if you cannot become bandits, you can still take the money and live a peaceful life. Although Yuli was unfamiliar with the era of this station, she quickly inquired about the majority of essential information. It was utterly impossible for Wu Shuang to undertake such tasks. After extracting the crucial details, Yuli, hailing from a prominent family and raised in high society, effortlessly spun grand visions that left the bandits feeling grateful. Subsequently, the surrendered bandits transported all the supplies from their stronghold, as this world evidently lacked refrigerators and similar appliances. The provisions were those that could be preserved for a considerable duration. Furthermore, they discovered 2 green treasure chests, which delighted the 2 women immensely. These chests were particularly special. Although the indigenous people could see and touch them, they were unable to open them, relegating them to mere decorative items. However, in the hands of the trained conductors, they proved invaluable. Yuli promptly opened a green treasure chest and exclaimed joyfully, "Hooray! A piece of green equipment." She turned to Wu Shuang, asking, "Are you not going to open your treasure chest?" Wu Shuang shook her head vigorously. "I want it for Brother Su." She was not adept at lying, and when questioned, she would answer truthfully. Yet, Su Yunju had warned her never to disclose any matters concerning the first. Yuli narrowed her eyes. "Why do you want to give it to Brother Su? Who is he?" I cannot say." Observing Wu Shuang's serious demeanor, Yuli wisely refrained from probing further. While she possessed the flaws typical of a wealthy heiress, she was no fool. Everyone harbored their own secrets. An excessive inquiry would only lead to losing a pleasant friend. Yuli changed the subject. "By the way, your swordsmanship is truly impressive. It must be a skill above C rank, right?" She displayed a hint of envy. "How wonderful. I also wish to be a female hero, wandering the world with my sword. 10 paces to kill a man, leaving no trace for 1,000 miles. Wu Shuang bashfully smiled and lowered her head. "By the way, could you teach me a couple of moves?" Yuli mimicked Wu Shuang's earlier actions, believing herself quite stylish. However, Wu Shuang shook her head. "Master says, teach to males, not to females." Yuli scrutinized Wu Shuang, furrowing her brow. "Are you certain? Are you male?" Wu Shuang shook her head. She had previously harbored similar doubts. And then that elderly master with graying hair and beard had told her, "Wu Shuang, you must remember, you are a born swordsmith, a peerless sword deity." Wu Shuang's eyes sparkled. "Master, really?" "No," came the teasing reply. "Then why exactly?" The master chuckled. "The tradition of teaching males and not females is an ancestral rule. But nowadays, no one practices swordsmanship anymore. In modern society, who still wields ancient martial arts? After 10 years of practicing swordsmanship, he finds himself outmatched by someone who has merely trained with firearms for a week." The words of his master resonate with unsettling clarity. Yet, the harsh reality is that his parents, 2 elder brothers, and a younger sister perished in that invasion war. He is acutely aware of the formidable power of firearms. The ancient martial art of swordsmanship offers no protection. At his advanced age, surrounded by a multitude of descendants, not a single one expresses interest in learning this outdated sword technique. Even Wu Shuang, initially sent to him for the purpose of education and literacy, had no intention of practicing swordplay. He had resigned himself to the notion of taking his sword skills to the grave. However, Wu Shuang possesses an astonishing talent and has shown a genuine affection for swordsmanship. After some contemplation, the master decided that since the knowledge would not be passed on, he might as well teach her a little. Wu Shuang has not concealed her past. She has shared everything with Su Yunzhao, who made no objection to her openness, thus permitting her to speak freely. This, of course, is contingent upon Yi Liuli being a kind-hearted and beautiful individual. Otherwise, Wu Shuang would have remained silent. One can only attribute this to Su Yunzhao's effective guidance. Yi Liuli's eyes sparkled with intrigue. "I never imagined there existed such ancient martial families on Blue Star. Can you truly unleash such powerful swordsmanship here? And even sword energy?" Wu Shuang resolutely shook her head. She is well aware that her sword skills, while formidable on Blue Star, can only contend with a few ordinary individuals at best. However, upon boarding the train, she acquired a unique talent, sword enthusiast. Moreover, as she elevated her personal level, she discovered that while her sword skills did not become stronger, the power and speed of her sword strikes significantly increased, even allowing her to unleash sword energy. Chapter 120. The friendship of Guan and Bao boxes upon boxes of resources are being transported to Su Yunzhao's train by the doggo cargo truck. Though the waiting time seems lengthy, it is in fact quite brief. After thoroughly scavenging the resources within the goblin dungeon, the area was subsequently cleared by the goblins. Lilith finished her meal and departed, her expression one of disdain, yet she was indeed willing to assist. Su Yunzhao gazed at the photograph in his hand. With the pressing issue resolved, it was time to examine his treasure chest. The haul this time was satisfactory. 2 blue treasure chests met his expectations. However, the most crucial aspect lay in the resources gleaned from the dungeon. While these resources could be purchased at the trading post, the total cost would likely reach 100 crystals. Fortunately, this expenditure was completely alleviated after scavenging the goblin dungeon. Currently, Su Yunzhao is only 1 any defensive module and 1 advanced core away from upgrading to a level 5 train. As night falls, the train travels once more across the desolate landscape. Su Yunzhao receives a system notification indicating that a friend has sent a private message. "Wu Shuang, green chest 1. Without a word, Su Yunzhao tossed the chest back to her. He currently possesses an abundance of bronze points, and naturally, he holds the female sword master he has painstakingly nurtured in high regard. Su Yunzhao's present situation can certainly be likened to that of a fish being raised. He has seen Wu Shuang's appearance. Although somewhat dazed, she is indeed captivatingly beautiful, her petite stature stirring his heart. However, he firmly asserts that he is not inclined towards the allure of youthful innocence. While Su Yunzhao harbors intentions, Wu Shuang remains blissfully unaware. It is evident that she has feelings of affection and admiration for him, yet she is completely oblivious to the nuances of romantic love. She comprehends the concept of appropriate boundaries between men and women, but when Su Yunzhao inquired about the origins of children, her response was simply that they emerge from the belly. Yet, upon further probing, her explanation fell short, asserting that after a marriage, if the couple desires a child, the woman's belly merely expands. This answer, at first glance, appears satisfactory, but Su Yunzhao soon realizes that Wu Shuang lacks understanding of the intricacies involved. It is as if the existence of a child were merely a matter of the couple's words, manifesting at their whim. Initially, Su Yunzhao intended to enlighten Wu Shuang with a lesson on biology, but his efforts were thwarted by the system, which deemed it inappropriate and nearly imposed a 24-hour silence upon him. He vowed never to broach such topics in the chat channel again. Shortly thereafter, Wu Shuang sent him another message. 肥料类型消耗品品质普通效果加速植物生长，让植物生长得更加旺盛。说明常见的肥料总计50袋。Su Yunzhou inquired immediately, "How did you acquire these?" Wu Shuang, with a slight stutter, began to recount the tale of her previous journey, leaving nothing unmentioned regarding Yilioli. Yilioli? That dark Pokemon trainer? She seems quite amiable, yet her Pokemon are truly disheartening. Su Yunzhou knows how to motivate Wu Shuang. A few casual compliments provide her with ample emotional value. However, Wu Shuang remarked, "Our bond has deepened." Su Yunzhou replied, "Indeed, our bond level now stands at steadfast friends, the kind that will never betray." Little Wu Shuang's eyes sparkled with delight as she gazed at those four characters, a vague yet profound emotion blossoming within her. She could not quite grasp the nature of this feeling. It was distinctly different from her affection for her teachers or her parents. Curiously, she inquired, "What is the next level?" Su Yunzhou twitched his lips. "Another level? If you wish to be my girlfriend, you could say it outright." He stroked his chin, pondering for a moment before responding. "The next level is the friendship of Guan and Bao." Wu Shuang, the adorable little one, tilted her head in confusion and asked, "What is the friendship of Guan and Bao? I don't understand." With nothing pressing at the moment, Su Yunzhou took the opportunity to elaborate on the tale behind the friendship of Guan and Bao. According to legend, during the spring and autumn period in the Warring States, there were two individuals, one named Guanzhong and the other Bao Shuya. At this moment, Su Yunzhou was narrating a tale to Wu Shuang when he felt Feina embrace him from behind. This was not merely a trivial occurrence. Presently, Su Yunzhou found himself in a state akin to brainwaves. Upon turning his head, he would switch to a visage reminiscent of facial cleanser. "Boss, are you conversing with Shui or Shuang again?" Su Yunzhou furrowed his brow. "What Shui or Shuang? Speak plainly." Feina sighed. "I have merely noticed that despite my meticulous care and cultivation of crops, their yield is disappointingly low." Su Yunzhou dismissed her concern. "That's normal. For crops that yield once a week, if their output were to rival that of those that yield once every 6 months, something would indeed be amiss. Boss, I suspect it's due to a lack of fertilizer. During my time as a nun at the church, I was not entirely oblivious to the world outside. I know those farmers are impressive, with yields of 3 stones per moo. Moreover, their sows are as large as elephants." "Stop," Su Yunzhou interrupted. "Fertilizer is available. You may retrieve it from the storage compartment." Having just loaded 50 bags of fertilizer, he tossed them into the storage area. He did not lack food. Hence, the dark soil compartment was gradually becoming neglected. However, Feina, now embodying the role of a homemaker, developed an obsession with gardening. Coincidentally, as Su Yunzhou had procured numerous seeds, she embarked on her planting journey. Initially, she produced misshapen fruits. Even normal tomato seeds yielded what resembled the fruit of a saint. They both found them inedible and discarded them to Hakim for his meal. Later, her results improved, yet she began to complain about the insufficient yield. What more could Su Yunzhou say? Wasn't fertilizer now at hand? Minutes later, after concluding the tale of Guan and Bao with Wu Shuang, her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Am I Guan, or am I Bao Shuya?" "You are Bao. I am the tall, imposing, and fearsome Guan." Wu Shuang immediately refuted. "Guan is not terrifying." She had completely immersed herself in the narrative, believing that if Su Yunzhou were Guan, then he must be quite handsome and formidable. Upon hearing this, Su Yunzhou could no longer contain himself and erupted into laughter. Teasing a naive little sister was indeed delightful. After their conversation, Wu Shuang received a friend request. "Yilioli, request to add you as a friend." She felt a surge of happiness, for Su Yunzhou had remarked that Yilioli was a good person, making friendship seem promising. She accepted the friend request. Upon seeing Wu Shuang's acceptance, Yilioli felt a rush of excitement and promptly sent a message. "Wu Shuang, you are truly remarkable and stunning. Let us become the best of friends. May I call you Shuang? I genuinely admire you. You embody the idol of my heart. Why haven't you replied? You must find my summoned beast quite repulsive, right? Well, I am self-aware, but you need not completely disregard me, right? Never mind. I shall not bother you any longer." Chapter 121. The black gold butterfly mask 2-5 messages were dispatched in rapid succession. The interval between the first and the fifth was merely 10 seconds. At that moment, Wu Shuang, in a state of urgency, exclaimed, "I apologize for my slow messaging." Shortly thereafter, she received a notification. The other party has removed you from their friend list. Fortunately, Yuli did not block Wu Shuang, allowing her messages to still be sent. Upon seeing this notification, Yuli realized her impatience. She could vividly picture Wu Shuang's adorable face, nearly in tears from anxiety. It was then that she understood Wu Shuang had little prior experience with mobile phones or computers, let alone typing. The fact that she could master voice input was already a remarkable talent. However, her stuttering and slow speech further delayed her responses. In the middle of the night, as Yuli awoke, she recalled this incident and nearly slapped herself for her insensitivity. Time passes swiftly. 2 days slipped by unnoticed. Your level has been raised to level 11. Experience points, 3110. You have gained 1 free attribute point. Your talent enhancement is infinite bronze points, gaining 1 silver point every 8 hours and 1 gold point every 120 hours. Su Yunzhou clicked his tongue, noting there is no significant improvement. It merely slightly accelerates my acquisition of silver points. Yet he understood that leveling up is not an overnight endeavor. One cannot expect to become a glutton in a single bite. Even a well-fed person must undergo a gradual process of gaining weight. Feina approached, expressing concern as she offered Su Yunzhou a massage. "Boss, the next stop is approaching." Indeed, Su Yunzhou nodded. After this period, his points had replenished once more. He now had an unlimited supply of bronze points, 5 silver points, and 0 gold points, with a gold point taking 120 hours to acquire. He would need to experience at least 2 more stops to obtain one. However, with 5 silver points in hand, he naturally began contemplating their allocation. First, he decided to repair the damaged black butterfly mask. Black gold butterfly mask 2, type, armor quality, epic defense, extremely high, effect 1, capable of withstanding any attack to the front face. If the attack's intensity surpasses the armor's defense, the damage will be nullified, and the equipment will sustain damage, can be repaired with energy crystals. Effect 2. When one's information is being scrutinized, this equipment will provide erroneous, yet plausible information to the inquirer. This feature can be toggled on or off. Effect 3. Consuming spiritual energy to alter one's aura allows you to emit the aura of a different race. A considerable amount of spiritual energy can completely conceal your own aura. Description: with the mask donned, you can become anything. Quite intriguing indeed. Su Yunzhou placed the mask upon his face and proceeded to attempt altering his aura. Subsequently, he observed Hakimi becoming suddenly alert. It rushed over, emitting a distinctly hostile cry towards Su Yunzhou. "Meow, meow, 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 meow." Hakimi challenged Su Yunzhou. "Silly cat." Su Yunzhou gave its head a light tap, then disabled the simulated aura effect. Immediately, Hakimi noticed that the other cats encroaching upon its territory had vanished. It then gracefully padded back to its nest, lounging comfortably. When will this cat ever gain some sense? Su Yunzhou sighed and shook his head, then retrieved 2 blue chests. Without hesitation, he elevated both blue chests to level 2 simultaneously. He then opened them, revealing a total of spoils: 1 epic quality item, 3 perfect quality items, and 18 energy crystals. Additionally, there was a choice of 1 out of 3 C-grade skill cards as a reward. The options were as follows. 1. Super Sage. Upon entering Sage mode, your attributes will be doubled, though your Sage duration is limited to a maximum of 1 minute. 2. Perception Cloaking Spell. This can obscure the target's perception of certain body parts. In extreme cases, it can mask all perception below the neck, while bodily functions remain operational. 3. Humanoid Self-Operating Mana Restorer. Through specific rituals, it can replenish the target's mana. The frequency of daily replenishments should not be excessive, lest the mana become diluted. Su Yunzhou. Su Yunzhou. Su Yunzhou. Is this skill even legitimate? Such obviously peculiar skills are beyond his capacity to learn. At this moment, a small box appeared at the bottom of the 3 choices. Consume 24 energy crystals to learn all 3 skills without deliberation. TSK. Su Yunzhou swore he had no interest in these skills. It was simply that he had an abundance of energy crystals, and he wished to expend some. By the way, he truly is not a Lilicon. After learning the 3 skills, Su Yunzhou naturally assigned them all a level of 1. Whether they would reach level 2 would depend on the subsequent value of these skills. Super Sage 1 type, skill level, B effect 1. Upon entering Sage mode, you will gain the following effects: quintupled attributes, stamina and spiritual energy locked at 100, immunity to control effects of the same level or lower during this period, immunity to 1 lethal damage instance. Effect 2. Your Sage's duration is now limited to a maximum of 1 minute. It may even be less than a minute. He began to contemplate the profound mysteries of the universe. The prerequisites for this realization were particularly stringent, yet the results proved exceedingly potent. Su Yunzhou speculated that, were it not for these conditions, this skill would undoubtedly merit an A-grade rating. Perception Obscuration Magic 1, type, skill, level, C, effect 1. Consume spiritual energy to obscure the perception of certain body parts of the target, under extreme circumstances. It can completely shield all perception below the neck. However, bodily functions will continue to operate normally. Effect 2. When the target's perception is restored, all sensations that were obscured will be instantaneously relayed back to the target. Description: do not overdo it, as it may lead to foolishness. The enhancements yield minimal changes, yet this ability is undeniably formidable. Were it not for the necessity of physical contact with the target to activate, it would be classified as an exceptionally powerful control skill. Humanoid Self-Operating Mana Restoration Device 1, type, skill level, B, effect 1. Your body now serves as a mana reservoir, allowing others to draw mana from within you. Naturally, you may also choose to provide it willingly. Effect 2, passive effect, increases spiritual energy limit by 50. Description: do not overdo it, as it may lead to foolishness. Skipping the mana restoration for others, Su Yunzhou's attention shifted to effect 2. An increase of 50 in spiritual energy limit is an unadulterated numerical marvel. It exudes a straightforward yet profound strength. Pleased with these 3 skills, Su Yunzhou felt a sense of satisfaction. Chapter 122, The 14th Stop, The City of Vampires. Subsequently, Su Yunzhou continued to inventory other items. Shockwave Sonic Module Card, Quality, Epic Type, Attack Module, Effect. Upon activation, the train is equipped with a Shockwave Sonic device, which will unleash an assault on all enemies within a 300-meter radius, inflicting damage to their eardrums while simultaneously inducing symptoms such as dizziness and nausea. Description: please note, the effectiveness against creatures devoid of hearing is severely diminished. It is regrettable. A defense module card would have been preferable. However, the installation of train modules seems contingent upon the train's own carrying capacity, and it appears I can install 2 attack modules. It is evident that Su Yunzhou cannot assemble modules without limit. Yet, he remains uncertain about how many modules his train can accommodate. It is assured that at least one of the attack, defense, and acceleration modules can be installed. Thus, he endeavored to assemble a new attack module for the train, and the result was successful. Su Yunzhou nodded in satisfaction. He then resumed his inventory of the other 3 items of perfect quality. 2 of these were pieces of equipment, yet they duplicated items already worn by Su Yunzhou and were not suited to his compatibility. Fina, come here for a moment. What is it, boss? Fina was, in fact, positioned just behind Su Yunzhou, leaning in closely. Soon after, a pitch-black robe appeared in Su Yunzhou's hands. The robe, crafted from a soft and comfortable fabric, was a piece of exquisite magical attire, perfectly suited for Fina. However, Su Yunzhou's intention was simply to gift Fina a beautiful new garment. Given the scarcity of clothing aboard the train, most of Fina's outfits had been casually scavenged by Su Yunzhou. Naturally, he himself was clad in a rather casual ensemble. Go ahead and try it on, he encouraged. Upon receiving his consent, Fina, with a hint of eagerness, donned the black robe before Su Yunzhou. The robe was somewhat loose-fitting, subtly concealing her remarkable S-shaped figure, though not entirely. The contours were still discernible, reminiscent of a voluptuous silhouette. Boss, do I look good? Fina inquired, her eyes sparkling. Su Yunzhou nodded in affirmation. It suits you perfectly. He then diverted his gaze. Noticing Su Yunzhou's preoccupation with other matters, Fina felt a twinge of irritation. But she quickly dismissed the thought, for she soon realized that this was no ordinary garment. It possessed magical enhancement effects. To possess such a high-quality piece of equipment made her heart swell with sweetness. As she thought, the boss truly is kind to me. Without dwelling on this further, Su Yunzhou proceeded to list the remaining 2 pieces of equipment on the trading post. The pricing was quite reasonable. However, The value of equipment often depended on its compatibility. Even if he had a superb sword, a swordsman like Wu Shuang would not be inclined to purchase it, and the train's conductor, already equipped with a flawless weapon, was unlikely to invest in another. Su Yunzhou contemplated leaving the items up for 2 stations if they remained unsold. He would dispose of them in the zero-style magic recycling machine. With this in mind, he produced a silver point to feed into the zero-style magic recycling machine and super magic recycling machine too. Type, item quality, perfect effect, can recycle ordinary, fine, or perfect level items, with each recycling carrying a chance to yield an epic or legendary item. If no item is produced, the probability increases. Probability explanation, ordinary 1, fine 5, perfect 20. Probability resets after an item is produced. Description, super recycling machine. 5 perfect level items guarantee an epic item? No, the probabilities do not work that way. Typically, inputting a 3rd perfect level item yields a guaranteed result. My luck cannot be that abysmal. I must reach 100 for a chance. At that moment, the train's announcement interrupted Su Yunzhou's thoughts. The train will arrive at the station in 10 minutes. All conductors, please prepare yourselves. Next stop, City of Vampires, difficulty level 2 type. For players, danger level, moderate reward level. Excellent special note. As a human, there is no need for justification when slaying a vampire. The train vanished from the desolate landscape and gradually came to a halt at a train station. Su Yunzhou displayed a look of astonishment. Was the train truly stopping at a station? After so many stops, this was the first time a train had genuinely arrived at a platform. Soon, Su Yunzhou noticed that this platform had 2 other trains. From their appearance, they were also long-distance trains. He was momentarily taken aback. Huh? Only 3 trains in total? Isn't this a 4-person platform? Through the window, Su Yunzhou could see the other passengers peering out, similarly drawing back their curtains to observe their surroundings. Then he spotted a familiar face, Zhang Ning, adorned in a pale yellow ancient-style dress. He couldn't help but feel a surge of joy. To be stationed with Zhang Ning meant at least one trustworthy teammate was by his side. As for the other train, it contained a somewhat slender youth, whose appearance was decent yet somewhat lecherous with squinting eyes. The boy's name was Huang Jinkai, and his gaze merely swept across Su Yunzhou's train before fixating intently on Zhang Ning. His eyes sparkled with excitement. Wow, a stunning ancient beauty. In the train, there were no women to be seen. Without electronic devices, accessing specific websites was impossible. In short, Huang Jinkai was truly feeling the pressure. However, he lacked the courage to take action, his mind racing with countless thoughts yet devoid of any real initiative. Then, the slender youth observed a man in black casual attire disembarking from another train, accompanied by a mechanical dog. Wow, how cool. But this guy is rather reckless. To simply step off without surveying the situation? If he were to be ambushed upon exiting, he would be in serious trouble. With that thought, Huang Jinkai couldn't help but smile. Well, this rash fellow could help me scout the area. Unexpectedly, the ancient beauty in yellow also descended from the train, approaching the man. At that moment, Huang Jinkai realized what he had missed. Oh no, he thought he was on the 2nd level, but they were on the 5th. If he had disembarked earlier, he could have captured the beauty's attention, possibly even striking up a conversation or adding her as a friend. I must hurry and get off, at least to leave a favorable impression in her eyes. Meanwhile, Su Yunzhou was assessing Zhang Ning. Are you adjusting well? If you need anything, feel free to let me know. After all, you are entrusted to my care by Zhuai. Zhang Ning shook his head. I'm all right. It doesn't seem too difficult. Chapter 123. The Mega Map Station. In truth, over the past few days of introspection, Zhang Ning has come to a profound realization. She must firmly align herself with Su Yunzhou. Essentially, Zhuai is her creator, having fashioned a world that operates freely yet is riddled with numerous flaws and shortcomings. In the eyes of a pseudo-deity, this world is but a trivial realm. Zhang Ning, however, emerges as a successful derivative from this flawed universe. She possesses the ability to traverse and influence other worlds. While Zhuai's world may be fraught with issues, at the very least, Zhang Ning remains a rational being. As an entity with independent thought, she has undergone a tumultuous journey of ideological conflict, transitioning from rebellion to submission. Her current mindset is to follow this man named Su Yunzhou. If he proves to be commendable, she shall remain by his side. If not, she will devise a means to extricate herself. This transient mindset persisted for some time until that fateful night when, after negotiating a monumental deal with Su Yunju, she surrendered completely. The specifics of that event are best left unspoken, for they hold little worth discussing. Returning to the present, Zhang Ning bowed to Su Yunju and said, "Boss, please give your orders." Su Yunju scanned their surroundings and remarked, "Let us first explore the vicinity. I suspect someone will soon come to assist us." At that moment, Zhang Ning inquired, "Boss, is it safe for our train to be parked there? There is another train we do not recognize." Her underlying message was a caution to be wary of the unfamiliar train. However, Su Yunju remained unperturbed. With 2 combat modules at his disposal, he felt more than capable of handling an ordinary train conductor. Moreover, he had informed Fina in advance that if Zhang Ning's train were to come under attack, it would activate its defensive mode. This was also the reason he chose not to disembark with Fina. Su Yunju reassured her, "You need not worry. I have it all under control." He then called out to his mechanical dog, Wang Kai, "Activate treasure-seeking mode." In an instant, Wang Kai darted away, disappearing from their sight. Zhang Ning was taken aback. She had assumed this peculiar canine was one of Su Yunju's assets. Yet it had simply run off? Disregarding her puzzled expression, Su Yunju gestured in a particular direction. "That should be the exit. Follow me." Soon, they reached the exit, where they encountered another pair, a man and a woman. They were evidently locals, conversing in authentic American English. "Oh, my good fellows, you two have finally arrived." The man, tall and muscular, with golden hair and blue eyes, resembled a fitness instructor. "You must be the newly minted ghost hunters, am I right? We've been waiting for quite some time. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Jack, and this is Michaela." The appearance of another woman is that of an African descent, her physique equally athletic and exuding a sense of strength, her long, ebony hair tied back in a ponytail. "Hello, it is a pleasure to meet you," Michaela remarked with piercing eyes. "However, I heard there should be 3 of you. Why have only 2 arrived?" Jack reproached, "Oh, Michaela, please refrain from questioning our new companion in such a tone." Noticing the amicable exchange, Su Yunzhou interjected, "The third individual seems to be lost in thought, still aboard the train. Should we retrieve him?" Jack glanced at Michaela, evidently seeking the opinion of the African woman. Michaela decisively shook her head. "If they are late, we should not concern ourselves. This is an order from our superiors. Jack, we must adhere to the commands given." Jack sighed in resignation. "All right, let us return to the Demon Hunters Guild then. Do not worry. Newcomers, someone will come for the 3rd person shortly." Su Yunzhou nodded, leading Zhang Ning as they followed the 2 out of the station. At that moment, Su Yunzhou realized just how vast the layout of the station was. This was a remarkably modern metropolis, with towering skyscrapers and a myriad of advertising screens flickering incessantly along the streets. The traffic wove golden trails of light along the roads, shimmering in and out of the buildings with no distinct vehicle shapes, only luminous streaks undulating in the night. The radiance of Times Square was the brightest in the evening, with streams of pastel blue, orange, and red swirling across the giant screens, transforming the silhouettes of passers-by into flowing blocks of color, blurring the lines between those walking and those standing still, enveloped in a cacophony of hazy brilliance. What is this?" Zhang Ning was utterly entranced, gazing at the heart of the Empire's most resplendent city, witnessing the might of modern technology. Jack chuckled heartily. "Welcome in New York, the city of vampires." Subsequently, they guided Su Yunzhou and Zhang Ning to the Demon Hunters Guild. In this world, it seemed that everyone had grown accustomed to the presence of vampires. Su Yunzhou found it perplexing. Despite the antagonistic relationship between humans and vampires, the latter thrived in New York, even proliferating. It was clear that if a vampire were to appear openly on the streets, it would incite panic among the populace and swiftly attract law enforcement. After some inquiry, Su Yunzhou gleaned a bit about the vampires in this world. Apparently, in this temporal setting, vampires only transformed uncontrollably into their true form on nights of the full moon, complete with bat wings, crimson eyes, sharp fangs, and alabaster skin. However, under ordinary circumstances, their appearance bore no distinction from that of regular humans. Furthermore, vampires would also assume their monstrous form when feeding on human blood or showcasing their powers. In their non-vampiric state, their combat abilities were surprisingly equivalent to those of humans. Moreover, within this fantastical world, while vampires possess remarkable regenerative abilities, A severe blow to the head or a fatal strike to the heart can result in immediate death, provided the wound is substantial enough. Upon hearing these characteristics, Su Yunzhou comprehended the fundamental premise of this realm. Jack chuckled, remarking, "After all, both Su and Zhang hail from the eastern lands. It is entirely reasonable that they are unaware of these details." Su Yunzhou nodded in acknowledgement. This appeared to be a world steeped in enchantment, where various nations were plagued by peculiar creatures. Su Yunzhou and Zhang Ning's roles were those of foreign aides, arriving from the east to assist America in combating the vampires. After registering Su Yunzhou and Zhang Ning as demon hunters, Jack remarked with a smile, "You are fortunate to have arrived in time. Otherwise, you would have to wait another 6 hours for the next registration wave." Su Yunzhou raised an eyebrow. "What about the remaining newcomer?" Jack sighed with a hint of resignation. "You'll have to wait for 6 hours. There is nothing to be done about it." "Well then, you now possess the status of newly minted demon hunters, enabling you to accept missions and embark on your inaugural demon hunting task. It is essential to inform you that demon hunters are categorized by ranks, and the tasks you can undertake are similarly subject to rank restrictions." Chapter 124. Accepting missions. Jack handed over 2 manuals to Su Yunzhou and Zhang Ning. Although they were in English, the contents had been accurately translated into a language comprehensible to both. As Jack encouraged them to peruse the manuals, he elaborated. Demon hunter ranks are divided into C, B, A, and the highest rank, S. Currently, you both are C-rank demon hunters, and you may only accept missions that are 1 rank higher than your own. To advance in rank, you must complete a mission of a higher echelon. For instance, as C-rank hunters, completing a B-rank mission will elevate you to B-rank demon hunters. Upon concluding the introduction, Su Yunzhou promptly inquired, "What are the rewards for completing missions?"